After grinding for days, your boy finally finished editing this absolute masterpiece. The Regressor, who creates everything. No cap. This series is currently sitting at top 2 on the Korean monthly charts, and it is straight fire. Let us dive straight into the sauce. This dude literally just crafted a sword scabbard like it was nothing, but it completely shook every hunter in the exam hall. He left them absolutely cooked. Even Ryu, one of the most OP hunters in the game right now, was ready to throw hands and snatch that gear on the spot. The judges were literally tripping, unable to believe their own eyes. The gear he forged was radiating an aura that was straight up terrifying. We are talking boss-level pressure. When the system finally appraised it, this fire attribute scabbard hit super rare tier. It could store mana and multiply it like crazy. Everyone was baffled. How does a random examinee have such insane forging stats? But little did these NPCs know in his past life, this guy was the undisputed #1 blacksmith in the world. He was the absolute GOAT. With his god-tier crafting skills, he hooked up the heroes with mythic weapons, carrying them to defeat the 6 demon gods of destruction. But even with that clutch victory, humanity still got wiped out. Why? Because one of those demon gods was the Sea of Destruction. Even after the boss got dropped, its toxic sea of death swallowed up most of the surface. Total game over. Thinking back on that massive Lee Sehun could only scoff at himself. I busted my absolute back to survive, only to end up getting packed up by this nasty ocean. The surviving heroes dropped like flies, and even the hero tower which held the world together totally crumbled. This cursed, ruined sea refused to despawn even after the final boss was smoked. Right at that moment, a voice pulled him from his thoughts. "Are you seriously trying to play the lone wolf out here?" Song Ha-yeom strolled up, getting right in Lee Se-hoon's face. He cringed super hard, seeing how totally wrecked Lee Se-hoon looked. Anyone watching would think you were solo carrying the entire server. Enter the madhound Song Ha-yeom. Hearing the trash talk, Lewis chimed in with major disrespect. The dude who was literally just faking sick on the ground is now trying to act like the main character. Enter the violent hound, Lewis Valen. Meanwhile, Amy clutched her head and groaned. "Bruh. I literally called this, did I not? Boss man is just trying to leech the XP after taking over the Legion's command." That was the Ice Hound Amy. After a brief heavy silence, ignoring their endless yapping, Lee Se-hoon completely clapped back with a freezing tone. "Shut your mouths. You all would have been totally cooked ages ago if it were not for the busted gear I crafted for you." The Last Blacksmith, Lee Se-hoon. The moment he dropped that truth bomb, Song Ha-yeom lost his mind. "Say what now?" Lewis shook his head, totally triggered. "This dude has zero filter, I swear." Amy could not help but jump in. "Hey boss, that is kind of a toxic thing to say, no cap." Lee Se-hoon just let out a heavy curse, and the vibe instantly got suffocating. I said, "Shut up. If you scrubs do not like my gear, unequip it and hand it all back right now." In that tense moment, only one thought looped in Lee Se-hoon's mind. These 3 absolute menaces standing before me are the infamous 3 hounds. They did not give a single damn about humanity, and they definitely did not side with those demon scumbags. They just did whatever the heck they wanted, completely chasing the bag. Total opportunists who stayed on the sidelines just to farm the easiest loot. Even though they were the most toxic, selfish players out there, they actually managed to survive until the endgame. And ironically, they ended up being the hardest carriers when it mattered most. Thinking about it, Lee Se-hoon could not help but wonder. If these guys had just locked in sooner, would we have gotten the good ending? His gaze drifted back to the dying sun sinking into the toxic ocean. Lee Se-hoon just totally collapsed onto the dirt and glanced over his shoulder. Does anyone even have any HP left? Hearing that, Song Ha-yeom grabbed his gut and dropped to his knees. He coughed out a nasty dry sound. "My stamina is totally 0. Every single organ inside me is basically mashed potatoes." Lewis stared up at the empty sky, speaking at a painful crawl. "My status is totally mid too. Pretty sure I caught a massive debuff curse. My HP just keeps ticking down and will not stop bleeding." Over on the side, Amy was literally whining non-stop. My heart got totally pierced. I am 100% cooked. Seeing them like this, Lee Se-hoon let out a heavy defeated sigh. "See what happens. You idiots should have joined the raid from the very beginning." Even as they were literally on 1 HP, he did not hold back his savage roasting. "Instead of just being totally selfish and playing solo, you 3 absolute mutts ruined everything." Suddenly, a heavy thud broke the silence, catching Lee Se-hoon completely off guard. The notorious trio Song Ha-yeom, Lewis, and Amy had officially logged out. They were dead. Staring at their lifeless bodies, he pushed himself up with a tired sigh. "Even at the very end of the game, you guys are nothing but a massive headache." Lee Se-hoon dragged his feet over to them, his hand gripping his trusty hammer. He raised the tool into the air, his eyes locked dead onto the scrap metal scattered below. After a long, heavy pause, he carefully drove a set of blades into the dirt right next to Amy's body. His voice was completely raw with frustration. "You could have at least respected the gear I made you. This stuff is so trashed it is literally unusable now. But inside, he figured at least this garbage tier loot can serve as their tombstones. With his final task done, Lee Sehun tilted his head back toward the endless void. Standing alone in the screaming sea wind, he laughed at his own tragic fate. I guess it is finally my time to get packed up, huh? His hands completely wrecked, and bleeding from the grind slowly reached upward. His gaze was chillingly calm, like he had accepted the end. This is going to be the very last time I pop this skill. Without hesitation, he slammed his palm right into his own chest. The space around him glitched out and glowing system text popped up in his UI. A totally robotic voice echoed in his brain. Commencing link extraction from target Lee Sehun. Affinity level with the creator Lee Sehun has hit the absolute negatives. Out of nowhere, a glitching crystal materialized right into his palm. A faint icy blue glow flickered around the totally invisible ore. The ruthless system dropped the lore. Unique skill activated. Link Blacksmith allows the user to farm special ores from a connected target. The stats of the drop totally scale with the relationship and hidden potential of the person you pull it from. Lee Sehun locked his eyes onto the crystal, his mind racing. But using this OP skill on my own body. The drop rate is so trash, it is literally worse than a basic piece of iron ore. Colorless ore. A linked drop ripped straight from Lee Sehun. Its stats were absolutely zero. If only I had unlocked this awakened ability just a little bit sooner in the game. He glared at the fading loot in his hand, his nails digging crazy deep into his skin. He whispered to the void, completely desperate. If this thing has zero stats, then at least let it devour all this crushing regret inside me. In a split second, Lee Sehun hoisted his hammer straight to the heavens. A terrifying rumble echoed from the distance. He snapped his head up, staring down the violently churning black ocean. Was that massive roar coming from the Sea of Death itself? Or was it just the same glitched waves I've been hearing on loop this whole time? But one thing was absolute facts. Whenever that specific sound dropped in his ears, magic happened. In that exact second, Lee Sehun went completely berserk, smashing his hammer down onto the ore. A totally wild thought flashed through his brain. A mythic masterpiece that shatters all limits is about to be crafted. At the very last millisecond, the hammer made impact. An insane pillar of light erupted straight into the sky as he thrust the blade high above his head. His voice dropped into a fierce, gritty growl. Are you telling me I'm really going out without triggering a single special ability? Lee Sehun let out a bitter laugh. He really thought he'd cook up something epic, even if it was just from his own connection stone. Staring at the basic colorless metal in his hand, he muttered to himself. This is straight up mid. Whatever, I'm ending this playthrough on my own terms, with my own two hands. Suddenly, Sehun's face locked up. His eyes rolled back as a twisted laugh ripped from his throat. It echoed across the Dead Sea, sounding totally unhinged and completely broken. I'm literally insane for this, he thought, swinging a blacksmith hammer right up until the game over screen. In that final moment, his mind drowned in a flood of memories. As he tossed aside his final sword, it finally clicked. That crashing wave sound in his head since his mana awakened, he'd spent his whole life wondering what that noise was. Turns out it was the freaking Sea of Ruin all along. He squeezed his eyes shut. Regret crushed him like a massive raid boss, his lips trembling as the guilt hit different. If only I'd caught on sooner, or talked some sense into those three absolute dogs. But then Sehun shook his head. Nah, no cap. If I hadn't gatekept my forging skills, if I just crafted for others earlier, we might not be totally cooked right now. Suddenly, space itself started glitching out. A massive hologram of an ancient artifact spawned above him. The system voice dropped a bombshell. Spiritual artifact manifestation confirmed. Activating primordial regression skill. Through a blinding flash of light, a totally chill voice echoed out. Welcome, candidate. Sehun's eyes snapped open. He was hyperventilating, completely low-key panicking. Wait, what, am I not dead? Standing right in front of him, Han was staring like he'd lost his mind. Yo, candidate Lee Sehun, what on earth are you doing over there? Sehun flinched hard. Candidate. He hadn't heard that title in 31 years. Then the assistant started barking again. Why are you zoning out right in the middle of the entrance exam? Sehun's eyes bugged out of his head. Hold up, what? He frantically scanned the room. The entrance exam. If this is a flashback to 31 years ago. Is this Babel Academy? Is my life just flashing before my eyes right before I log out? But then his eyes lit up as the final memory downloaded into his brain. Wait a second. That artifact skill that triggered right before I died. The air around Sehun turned ice cold. His breathing hitched. Did I actually just regress to the tutorial phase? Did my own connection stone weapon seriously pull off a literal time jump? Han's voice snapped him back. This is your final warning, kid. Candidate Lee Sehun. He growled, totally lacking chill. If you don't start taking this seriously right now, you are getting disqualified. Pure gamer instinct made Sehun nod. Yes, sir. Sehun locked his eyes on the hammer resting on the anvil. Regression. It wasn't cap. He flexed his hand in the air, getting a feel for the phantom grip of his weapon. If I had just stopped being mid and embraced my OP crafting skills from day one, could I have clutch saved the entire timeline? Sehun aggressively shook his head. Nah, that doesn't even matter right now. His breathing leveled out. His racing heartbeat found its rhythm. His entire body felt absolutely reborn in this awakening moment. Staring hard at his palms, he locked in on the only mission that mattered. I am going to carry this run. Failure is not an option. A savage smirk crept up Sehun's face. He stood tall in the center of the exam room, his eyes blazing like a freshly ignited forge. His inner voice dropped an octave, echoing with absolute resolve. I'm protecting everything this time. His grin widened. First quest of this new life, acing this Babel Academy exam. He hoisted the heavy hammer with effortless swagger. A dangerous glint flashed in his eyes. Tracking down those 3 absolute dogs is just the tutorial phase. Boom! A spark erupted into a roaring flame. Examiner Inon literally shivered. The old man leaned over Sehun's forge, his jaw practically dropping. All the other NPCs could see was Sehun going absolute goblin mode on that metal. Inon rushed closer, his eyes glued to the kid's hand movements. Incredible. The swing speed looks sluggish, but the rhythm is literally flawless. Listen to that crisp, pure ringing sound. He tracked every micro-movement of the metal in Sehun's grip. The examiner was shook. This kid's forging skill is straight up max tier. Inon was paralyzed by the hype, completely mesmerized by the flow. He gulped loudly, unable to tear his eyes away as the iron bar took on a godly shape. What kind of broken, overpowered perfection is this? Beside him, Han's eyes were bugging out. No shot. Is he actually crafting that right now? Inon let out a smug chuckle. A literal prodigy just walked into our academy. If he submits that piece right now, it's a guaranteed W. But right on cue, Sehun brought the hammer down with a devastating slam. Clang, a massive shockwave ripped through the room, making every single head turn, and then, crack. The masterpiece shattered into worthless pixels of scrap metal. Han's soul practically left his body. Examiner Inon looked like he was about to short-circuit, his eyes bulging in pure horror. Cut to Sehun's apartment. The guy was just zoning out, staring at the glowing, burning mass in his palm. Sehun flipped the tiny metal chunk between his fingers. Not the worst drop. But is it seriously this small? He chewed his lip, going into full analysis mode. Connection extraction takes my bond with a specific target, and physically manifests it into rare, unheard-of ores. He glared at the pathetic little nugget, his vibe instantly dropping. The catch is, my connection level is totally scrubbed here right now, making this skill pretty useless in the early game. Staring at the glowing blue status window floating in his face, he let out a salty sigh. Plus, stacked up against the other Babel freshmen, my stats are literally garbage. Sehun tilted his head back, feeling the sting of the nerf. It's an L for sure. But if resetting back to level 1 is the price for a time travel redo, that's a massive bargain. He gave himself a mental pep talk, forcing his gamer rage back down. Chill. No need to rush the speedrun. A venomous, bloodthirsty aura spiked in his eyes as flashes of the apocalyptic future flooded his mind. Expecting to be OP right off the bat is just greedy. I've got plenty of time on the clock to absolutely style on those Demon Realm scumbags. Those demonic freaks weren't just a threat to the human race. They were a planetary extinction event. The 6 great demon gods who single-handedly wiped out humanity. This entire apocalypse was their twisted big-brain scheme. Sehun stared blankly at the ceiling, plotting his revenge. If I'm gonna cancel their apocalypse, I can't afford to play nice. Every dirty trick in the book is on the table. I can't go choking when the major story quests trigger. So step 1, I need to grind for a weapon or skill that lets me unlock my past life memories. He gave himself a solid nod, locking in the game plan. Quest Stage 1, enroll at Babel Academy, already cleared. Next phase. But before he could finish, a blinding system pop-up hijacked his vision. Sehun's jaw dropped as he read the notification. The system's robotic voice chimed in with major news. User Lee Sehun's connection level has reached level 1. Skill connection imprint unlocked. Fast forward exactly 1 week. The legendary Babel Academy was glowing under the crisp morning sun. Meanwhile, deep inside the massive campus hallways, Sehun let out a heavy, frustrated groan. Bro, you've got to be kidding me. I'm completely lost again. Is this even the right spawn point? Lee Sehun scoped out the massive hallway, stopping when he spotted the familiar sign. This was the spot. Stepping inside, he kept it low-key. Morning, he announced. Someone suddenly shoved past Cadet Lee Sehun. After a split second of confusion, he was absolutely stunned. Michael slowly tapped the desk, spitting pure sarcasm. You look pretty chilled out. Michael raised an eyebrow, glaring at the packed waiting room. Can't you see everyone else waiting? Michael Barmett? The vice principal of the Barmett faction. Hearing the disrespect, Ian couldn't hold back. Vice principal, we still have 10 minutes. The makeup exam hasn't even started yet. The old man instantly cut him off. This isn't about time. It's about his attitude. Michael's voice dropped dangerously low. I'm going to have to write him up for this. Standing there, Lee Sehun felt completely awkward, letting out a heavy mental sigh. Was the alchemy department entirely cooked? Plus, this guy was actively beefing with his boss? Lee Sehun shifted his gaze toward Ian. Now it made total sense. This was why he recommended another cadet. As Lee Sehun looked around, Hunter shot him a completely unfiltered, toxic glare. The dude locked eyes with Lee Sehun, giving him a massive, judgmental up-and-down stare. Seeing this level of disrespect, Lee Sehun totally froze his arms, dropping lifelessly to his sides. After a brief pause, Lee Sehun finally broke the silence. Nice to meet you. Facing Hunter's insanely toxic vibe, he managed a forced smile. What is this absolute noob even doing? It's been ages since I got treated like absolute trash. This is so mid I can't even. Right at that chaotic moment, a new voice echoed through the room, grabbing everyone's attention instantly. Is the whole squad finally here? A silhouette suddenly stepped out of the blinding sunlight. Catching the vibe, Lee Sehun and Hunter whipped around at the exact same time. Over on the side, Michael let out an annoyed breath. We were wondering when you'd show up, Principal. At the very same second, Lee Sehun's eyes bulged right out of his head. The newcomer was Ruby. She instantly took a seat, locking eyes dead-on with Lee Sehun. She stared him down with a totally ice-cold glare, her voice dropping into a serious register. My bad for running late. It was Ruby, the top-tier principal of the Babel faction. Seeing her face, Lee Sehun felt his brain completely short-circuit. What the heck was she doing here? The moment he recognized Ruby, Lee Sehun was totally shook. His eyes darkened as old memories hit him like a truck. I heard rumors she used to grind at Babel. Thinking about it, his mind was absolutely spiraling. There's zero cap. I can't believe she actually leveled up to principal. The S-class hero, Ruby the Weapon Devourer, an insanely overpowered superhuman. Her unique system skill let her absorb lethal gear to permanently boost her own stats. Back in my first life, right before my regression, she was just a regular non-playable character at my shop. But way later on, Ruby had pulled up looking completely busted. Her voice had gone super soft, eyes curving into a fake smile. But deep down, she was hiding some major guilt. I really regret snacking on your weapon. Meanwhile, Lee Sehun stood there paralyzed. He didn't even respond to Ruby. The whole room went dead silent. She stared at the floor. On his end, Lee Sehun looked completely enraged, clenching his jaw so hard his entire body shook. In the end, he just dropped his head in defeat. Snapping back to reality, a sharp, punchy voice cut through the air. It pulled him right out of his mental lag. Yo, Lee Sehun. Lee Sehun snapped to attention, instantly replying, Yes, sir. Ian spoke with a heavy, stable tone, scanning the candidates. I'm dropping the quest details now. Everyone lock in. He stressed every single syllable, his voice crystal clear. You have exactly 90 minutes to clear this trial. Ian paused for dramatic effect. Within that 90-minute time limit, your mission is to craft a piece of gear. It must perfectly sync with the sword from the previous stage. Ian stopped talking for a few seconds, building up some massive tension. However, his voice turned ice cold. Every word hit like an absolute system command. You are strictly limited to using alchemy forging for this craft. Ian gave a subtle nod toward a shiny rack of high-tier ores. As for the crafting materials, he lowered his voice. You have free reign over any ore in this room. Ian's tone deepened respectfully, glancing at the two proctors. Your final drops will be personally appraised by Principal Ruby and Vice Principal Barmett. So go all out and craft something totally fire. Right after that, he dropped his hand like a flag. His voice echoed like a battle horn. All right, let's get it. Standing right in front of Lee Sehun and Hunter, Ian shouted at the top of his lungs. The exam officially starts now. A solid minute later, Lee Sehun muttered under his breath. Alchemy forging is the only option. Lee Sehun bit his lip, his eyes glued to the crafting materials. I need to trigger a pure magic resonance. That's the only way to stop the elemental energy from overloading. Catching this, Hunter let out a toxic snicker. You think staring at rocks is going to passively buff your mana? Lee Sehun slowly lifted his head, his gaze dropping several degrees below freezing. Am I tripping right now? Lee Sehun asked with fake curiosity. Were you just trying to flame me? Hunter smirked like an absolute villain. Who else is even in this lobby? Right on cue, Ian's voice cut through the beef. Hunter Barmett. He raised his voice with a hard warning. Keep the trash talk out of this exam. Hearing the warning, the dude gave a sarcastic little bow. I'll be more careful. Lee Sehun was completely shook. Hunter Barmett. What the actual heck? This clown is the proctor's kid. Michael Barmett, Hunter Barmett. Putting the pieces together. Lee Sehun flashed a devious grin. No cap that explains why they look like literal clones. Lee Sehun glared at the guy, purely disgusted. The more he thought about it, the more this whole setup felt rigged. Noticing the stare, Hunter chuckled internally. Looks like the noob finally figured it out. He smirked with supreme arrogance. The fact that I'm the vice principal's golden child. This guy is just a low-tier commoner. Absolute zero backing and the lowest mana pool in the lobby. But me, I was born into the legendary Barmett alchemy bloodline. My magic power is already on par with a second-year valedictorian. I'm literally built different. The outcome of this one-on-one was decided before it even started. Meanwhile, Ruby's eyes tracked their every single move. She flashed a faint, knowing smile. Lapis Stone and South Sea Jade. Both of these drops hold an insane amount of raw mana. Plus they're pure elemental ores packed to the brim with water attribute energy. Catching the vibe, Ian chimed in with a heavy tone. Water magic completely counters fire magic. It makes forging them a total nightmare. Michael sneered. That's old news. The current meta for alchemy forging has evolved way beyond the past. Facing his massive ego, Ian clapped right back. True alchemy forging isn't nerfed by space or conditions, but the crafting timer changes drastically depending on the caster's stats and the ore tier. So, with today's modifiers, 30 minutes should be more than enough. Meanwhile, Michael kept on grinning. It was a devious, totally psychopathic smile. He lowered his voice to a whisper. Hunter can literally synthesize any kind of ore. Just a few days ago, Hunter was casually spinning a mana crystal like a fidget spinner using pure spiritual energy. Ian was low-key shook. Pulling off a resonance synthesis in just 30 minutes. A chill ran straight down his spine. Wait, seriously. If this kid was already pulling off 30-minute resonance syntheses, his skills were not just freshman level. He was completely outclassing the sophomores, no cap. Ian narrowed his eyes, the pieces finally clicking together. So that is the play. Cramming the magic stone forging time limit, stacking the deck with god-tier materials, and forcing an alchemy-style forge, they absolutely rigged this exam. Setting a prompt that practically handed the win to Hunter since he was already an OP alchemy blacksmith. Ian glared daggers at the man's smug face. Michael was straight up moving like a toxic snake. After a heavy pause, Seong-ha-yeom let out a long breath. Yeah, this is perfectly fine. Amy gave him a sideways glance, completely caught off guard by his chill vibe. Everyone in the room was hardcore staring at him. Wait, hydrate stones and crimson firestones. Michael's brow twitched. He could literally feel the chaotic energy radiating from those two rocks. Those bad boys were the fire elemental equivalents of lapis and aquamarine, and their mana concentration was straight up off the charts. He scoffed coldly. I do not know if his skills are actually fire, but his ego is definitely massive. Across the room, Hunter caught himself side-eyeing Seong-ha-yeom's station. He zeroed in on Seong-ha-yeom's material pile. Is this dude seriously picking ores that totally clash with mine? Hunter let out a snarky chuckle. What an absolute clown. With your mid-tier mana pool, you are absolutely cooked if you try to control a crimson firestone. A smug smirk crept onto his face as he looked down. Honestly, this exam is going to be an even bigger dub than I thought. But suddenly Hunter's eyes went wide as he whipped his head back to Seong-ha-yeom. The system interface flashed, contract engraving skill activated. The robotic voice echoed in Seong-ha-yeom's mind. A blinding magical aura wrapped around him. Harmony contract engraving is now online. This busted skill literally let the user slot in contract stones, unlocking insane buffs for their current gear slots. Left arm, right arm. He was straight up equipping the Ironfire Silver onto his right arm. Seconds later, a single ember drifted down from above. The room went dead silent. Seong-ha-yeom's lips barely moved as he muttered under his breath. Look, I know my own skills still have a long way to go to hit max level, but flexing absolute garbage like this. He froze his hammer in midair, his eyes turning icy cold. As a true blacksmith, I am not letting that slide. Period. Watching him smash it, Hunter Barmett completely lost his mind. Did you really just destroy your weapon right in front of the professor? Do you think blacksmithing is some kind of joke? But Seong-ha-yeom just kept a straight face. Examiner. While Ian stared at him in pure shock, Seong-ha-yeom totally deadpanned his request. I want a do-over for my exam. Hunter Barmett lost his absolute chill. Hey, you little punk, but Ian totally cut him off. Crossing his arms, the professor dropped a zero hesitation order. Bring the kid his backup materials. Hunter Barmett's jaw hit the floor. Wait, what, are you serious? Ian just raised an eyebrow, hitting him with a freezing glare. The boy did not actually break any exam rules, did he? Or do you want me to fetch the materials my damn self? Hunter Barmett choked on his words, too scared to talk back. My bad. I will grab the backup stash right now. He scrambled away. Ian stepped right up to the forge. He locked eyes with Seong-Hayom, his voice heavy with a crazy amount of aura. Listen here, kid. He laid down the harsh truth. Do you realize you only have 40 minutes left on the clock? Seong-Hayom just gave a chill nod. Yeah, I know. Ian's eyes drifted to the shattered metal scraps on the table. So you really think trashing your first build was the big brain play here? At that, Seong-Hayom shifted his gaze back to the ruined chunks of metal. Finally, he looked Ian dead in the eye, with zero hesitation. I am not submitting a mid-piece of trash like that. The professor tilted his head. A thoughtful spark flickered in his eyes before he finally spoke. Fair enough. Give it everything you have got. A few moments passed, and the absolute fire of determination ignited in Seong-Hayom's eyes once again. He took a deep, grounding breath. He could feel how insanely weak this low-level teenage body still was. Damn it, he thought, feeling the pressure. Pulling off a flawless forge with these garbage-based stats is going to be brutal. Seong-Hayom's brow furrowed hard. His mana pool was draining. His stamina was totally nerfed, and the clock was ticking down fast. So what is the clutch play here? Suddenly, a massive aggressive hissing sound erupted from the forge. A bunch of test takers jumped and whipped their heads around. Bro, what is that noise? One dude started full-on panicking. Is that psycho actually pumping raw mana straight into the firestones? Another guy took a half step forward and yelled, Yo, what the heck are you doing? If those rocks catch a spark, they are going to literally blow us all up. Stop him. But Seong-Hayom did not even flinch. He just casually raised his hand and triggered the ignition. The entire room completely froze. A wild, five-colored flame roared to life, but there was zero explosion. Someone gasped out loud. Huh, no shot. This dude is absolutely insane. And right at that exact moment, a massive surge of invisible mana blasted straight into Seong-Hayom's core. Seeing the raging inferno, a few students started screaming their heads off. It is out of control. Get the fire extinguishers, hurry up. Hunter Barmett was literally shaking as he begged for backup. Professor, you have to make him stop. But Ian just waved him off like it was nothing. Let the kid cook. I expect the students to panic, but an assistant like you acting this weak embarrassing. Ian's vibe instantly turned dead serious as he pointed at the forge. Stop whining and actually look at the mana flow of those flames. Hunter Barmett blinked, totally confused. Wait, that is weird. Dancing right in front of Seong-Hayom was the legendary five-color Phantom Fire. A superheated inferno massively buffed by the perfect resonance of 5 different firestones. Seong-Hayom let out a cocky smirk, his eyes locked onto the blinding blaze. This move takes god-tier mana microcontrol, he thought. But it is a busted technique. You can pull it off even when your mana bar is basically on empty. One of the test takers was literally stuttering in disbelief. Wait, what the heck, why did it not blow up? Another kid chimed in, sounding totally spooked. Hold up. Do you guys think he is actually doing... Suddenly another guy pointed at the forge and screamed, Look at the metal. The ingot is already changing colors. Watching the insane speed of the process, Ian finally realized the genius play. So that was his master plan, Ian muttered. He is chaining the Firestone resonance to max out his firepower and instantly mutate the metal's core stats. But the professor's gaze grew heavy with concern as he watched Seong-Hayom. Sure, this exploit drastically cuts down the crafting timer. But with only 30 minutes left on the clock, it is still going to be a ridiculously tight clutch. Ian did the mental math. His previous hammer strikes were definitely S-class. But if that is his current limit, there is no way he beats the timer. Razor-sharp shards of metal suddenly blasted into the air. Seong-Hayom just smirked, a chaotic, wild glint flashing in his eyes. Without even flinching, he grabbed the blazing hot core with his bare hands and slowly shoved it deep into the roaring forge. Seong-Hayom was literally gasping for air, his stamina draining completely to the red zone. But he just gritted his teeth and kept dropping massive hammer strikes onto the glowing metal. Suddenly, his arm completely froze mid-swing. He clenched his jaw in pure frustration. He could feel his mana core completely bottoming out. Damn it, he cursed under his breath. My mana pool is at 0, and my protective aura just totally shattered. This trash-tier body is seriously the worst. I am grinding levels the exact second this exam is over. And without his aura, the intense recoil had already ripped his palms wide open. Dark red blood began to drip and pool across his blistered skin. But in that split second, only one absolute thought kept him going. I cannot afford to waste even a single millisecond. Letting out a fierce battle cry, Seong-Hayom swung the heavy hammer down like an absolute madman, fully deciding to push his mortal limits past the breaking point. Right on cue, Ian's voice boomed through the room. 10 minutes left. Then came the real pressure. 3 minutes. Down to the wire, he roared so loud the walls shook. 1 minute. Boom! Lee Sehun instantly hoisted his freshly forged blade high. Stop right there, Ian yelled, calling time. Hearing that, Lee Sehun finally let out a heavy breath. Under the workbench, his fist was clenched tight. Fresh blood steadily dripped from his knuckles, but the grind paid off. The system interface flashed a glowing blue. Crafting complete. Absolute clutch moment. The 5-color flame blade has been forged. You just bagged the C-rank flame artisan skill. System alerts kept popping off in thin air like crazy. Appraisal results for the 5-color flame blade are in. Rarity tier high, quality upper mid. It was a wicked curved sword dripping with 5 distinct flame patterns. Straight up fire. The flames compressed inside the blade reacted to raw mana. They flared up in a blinding spectrum of colors. This wasn't just some mid-weapon, it screamed infinite potential from the blacksmith who forged it. The blade's aura and stats could actually shift. It all depended on the vibe of the mana pumped into it. Someone in the crowd gasped, totally shook. Did it say, high-tier weapon? Lee Sehun smirked, not breaking eye contact. I suggest you check the detailed specs in the info window, Professor. I mean, come on. It was a guaranteed pass, no cap. Hans literally jumped out of his skin, losing his mind. He passed. The hype was unreal, but Ian instantly swatted his hand. Zip it, you brat. Han instantly folded. My bad, sir. Cut to a private room. Ian's personal office. The old man nervously peeked over his shoulder. Meanwhile, Lee Sehun sat casually in front of the massive desk, totally unfazed. Lee Sehun locked eyes with him, zero hesitation. So is this blade finally goated enough for submission? Ian stayed dead silent for a second before sighing. For now, yeah. The professor let out a heavy breath. But you still look bored out of your mind. Lee Sehun, let me shoot straight with you. Ian's voice dropped. He sounded like he was carrying the weight of the whole world. This academy is straight up too mid for your standards. He emphasized every single syllable. Honestly, you should pull your application right now. Ian kept speaking in that gritty, somber tone. Sure, the Babel Academy name still carries major clout, but our blacksmithing department is completely washed. We haven't produced anything fire in years. Lee Sehun just sat there soaking it in without a word. He narrowed his eyes at the old man. Yeah, tell him something he didn't already know. Babel's forge was doomed to shut down in 8 years. Their standards were tanking hard, and in the future timeline, Viken Academy was destined to become the undisputed top-tier blacksmithing school globally. After hesitating, Ian finally dropped the hard truth. Look, Viken is going to be the absolute best place for you. But before he could finish, Lee Sehun cut him off. You are dead wrong, Professor. The top spot isn't going to Viken. He pointed a thumb at his own chest, eyes burning with absolute ego. It's gonna be Babel, because I am here. In that moment, Lee Sehun's aura was completely OP. Like I said, Professor, you're trippin'. He stared Ian down, completely unfazed by the tension. Viken is mid. Babel is about to be the undisputed GOAT solely because I am enrolling. Hearing that bold flex, the professor physically flinched. His eyes wavered like crazy. Ian just stared at Lee Sehun, caught halfway between absolute shock and heavy skepticism. Ian narrowed his eyes, hitting him with a razor-sharp glare. He spoke slowly, laying down the ultimate challenge. If you're really talking all that smack, you need to become the department's top freshman first. You think you got what it takes? Lee Sehun didn't even blink. Bet. At the student level, literally nobody can touch my stats. The second he dropped that mic, Ian's whole expression shifted. The old man got serious real quick. Do you even know how Babel picks its top freshmen? Lee Sehun smirked, rattling off the lore like a walking wiki page. They filter out the noobs and pick a valedictorian candidate. It comes down to a sudden death exam between the top 2 heavyweights in the department. And whoever clutches that exam gets the crown. I know the meta, Professor. Babel Academy basically sorts its players into 3 massive factions. The Vanguard Combat faction, the Aegis Support faction, and the Forge Tech faction. Under each of those umbrellas, dozens of majors are tangled together like a massive skill tree. Scoring that valedictorian title, it means you literally outsweated thousands of tryhards across every single major. It forces all of Babel to acknowledge you as an absolute god-tier prodigy. Snapping back to reality, Ian was stressed out of his mind. His fists were clenched so hard they were literally shaking. He locked eyes with Lee Sehun again, his voice dropping all the sass. I'm going to tell you this one last time. Not as your professor, but as an OG blacksmith. He sounded utterly defeated. Even if you pull off the impossible and clutch first place, you are basically cooked trying to succeed as a smith in this dumpster fire. Go to Viken. Ian gave a firm nod, trying to end the kid's whole career right there to save him. That's the only way you level up. Lee Sehun actually felt a rare wave of respect for the boomer in front of him. The man was literally tossing his own academy under the bus just to protect a rookie's future. Gotta admit, the guy was a massive W. After a brief pause, Lee Sehun doubled down on his claim. Like I told you, Professor, the spawn point doesn't matter when you have my skills. His eyes practically glowed with wild ambition. Babel is about to get a massive carry. It will become the top tier. Ian was mentally lagging. Did this brat just say he was going to solo carry the whole academy? Finally, a smirk broke through the professor's gloomy face. Ian actually burst out laughing, totally vibing with the kid's insane ego. He reached his hand out across the desk. That's beyond arrogant, kid. But honestly, I'm totally here for it. His gaze softened, showing genuine hype. I'm seriously looking forward to seeing what you cook up. Lee Sehun didn't miss a beat. He grabbed Ian's hand in a firm ironclad grip. A cocky grin spread across his face. You and me both. Bam, glowing system text instantly popped off in his field of vision. Link established with target Ian. Creator. Link level 1 activated. Now extracting sync data from target. Lee Sehun flexed his arm, feeling the mana surge. A mysterious object materialized, literally floating right above his palm. It was a raw metal ingot glowing with smoldering embers. The system dropped the lore. Flame-infused iron link, tier high. Quality mid-low. Basically a badass chunk of metal that possessed living fire. It acted like arcane wood capable of permanently storing raw heat. Suddenly, Lee Sehun's entire arm was engulfed in raging flames. Watching from the sidelines, an absolute hater was grinding his teeth. What the hell kind of goofy try-hard trick is this punk pulling? Lee Sehun completely ignored the NPC energy. He was fully locked in channeling mana into the metal blocks. The iron ores lifted off, swirling around each other like a literal solar system of fire. A feral grin spread across Lee Sehun's face. Sparks literally danced in his eyes. Meanwhile, Yuna's squad was glued to the spectacle, completely shook. Michael raised an eyebrow, judging hard. Is this bozo trying to force a resonance by matching the elemental traits of the ores? What a noob. Any first-year knows you need pure mana to synthesize elemental rocks. Michael was already writing him off as cooked. If he kept brute-forcing the elemental fusion like that, the magical feedback was guaranteed to trigger a massive, uncontrollable explosion. Michael let out a toxic, villainous snicker. What an absolute clown. This dude is literally seconds away from nuking himself. Suddenly, Sehun whipped his arm forward. Dragon-like scales instantly coated his skin. The whole room went dead silent. Sehun held his pose, looking absolutely fire. Seeing this crazy flex, Enon and Han immediately ducked their heads. Meanwhile, Michael's eyes practically popped out of his skull. What was up with this insane firepower? Right then, a blazing sword materialized in thin air. Catching sight of it, Sehun barely moved his lips. The system's voice instantly chimed in his ear. Unlocked Iron Fire Silver Gear. Gear processing is 100% complete. Congratulations, you have successfully crafted the Fire Accumulation Scabbard. Seeing this insane drop, Yuho was absolutely shook. Michael was so stunned he literally froze in place, his brain completely short-circuiting. No way did this kid actually pull it off. A holographic system window flashed right on cue. Item name Fire Accumulation Scabbard. Rarity level rare. Quality low. A scabbard packed with heavy fire attribute mana. It can store and massively buff fire-type spiritual energy, granting the special skill Wildfire. At the exact same time, cold sweat dripped down Han's face. He already finished the synthesis phase. What kind of OP speed was that? Han stared blankly at his own palms, his mind totally crashing. This made zero sense. Those magic elements definitely should have blown up in his face. Panic started eating Han alive. Did I completely misunderstand the formula? Right then, Michael snapped out of his daze. He desperately screamed at the top of his lungs. Hold up, stop right now. If you pump elemental energy into those magic stones... But it was too late. The glowing orb in Han's hand started shaking violently. A blinding wave of heat completely wiped out his vision. Then boom. The sphere exploded, sending crystal shrapnel flying everywhere. A deafening blast shook the room, and the entire space trembled like an earthquake. Later that afternoon, inside the refinement department's exam hall, the scene shifted to a wrecked room with shattered crystals completely littering the floor. Over on one side, Han looked totally cooked, his face covered in nasty scratches. After an awkward silence, Enon finally broke the ice. Normally, after doing a super deep evaluation, he paused for a second, gritting his teeth to hide his obvious annoyance. One of you two would be nominated as the top student of the department. Saying this, Enon tilted his head, glaring straight at Han. However, things took a major L today. Han nervously shrank back, clutching his bleeding arm. The professor's cold eyes locked onto him. I never expected the exam to end with someone basically rage quitting. At the same time, Michael clenched his jaw. Despite being super salty, he tried to play it cool. Since a student took damage during the test, the smartest move is to void these results and schedule a rematch. Hearing that, Inon instantly spun around. He pushed back hard. We have zero authority to just cancel an exam that already went down. At the end of the day, wasn't that massive fail totally Han's own fault? Michael tilted his head, glaring daggers at Inon. His voice was ice cold. Professor Kim, seems like you care more about some mid-test scores than your own student's safety, huh? Inon went completely silent, but his eyes flashed with pure rage. Michael then stood up, acting like he owned the place. Let us drop that for a second. Michael took slow, dramatic steps to the center of the hall. His eyes drilled into Sehun, trying to expose him. The fastest resonance speed ever recorded in academia is exactly 5 minutes. But then his voice skyrocketed into a literal shout. A totally green freshman who just dragged himself onto this campus somehow channels mana and achieves instant resonance. Do you guys really think that is even possible? No cap, it is absurd. The original core of alchemy forging is a technique made to craft weapons using pure mana specifically when normal forging is off the table. So, the real secret sauce isn't the boomer method of sacrificing a smith's life force to beat ores into shape. It is about hacking into the mineral core and awakening its hidden vitality. That is the true peak of alchemy forging. In that moment, Sehun was internally rolling his eyes. Yeah, and what I just did literally proves that. This is the exact meta that blacksmiths will figure out soon anyway after taking tons of L's in trial and error. It is a basic trick that will become the standard in a few years, so I did not even bother hiding it. But I seriously don't have the time or patience to tutor some boomer who only knows how to yell and never listens. Finally, Sehun clapped back with a deadpan voice. I honestly have zero clue what you are yapping about. Hearing this, Michael gave a twisted smirk. Just as I suspected, you totally used cheat codes. He let out a toxic, arrogant laugh. A totally noob freshman somehow crafting rare tier gear. If you were going to scam us, you should have made it at least slightly believable. Sehun frowned, his eyes darkening at the disrespect, but he kept his cool. What the hell are you on about, right? Then Han forcefully crashed the tense conversation. He is right, this whole thing is totally rigged. Michael bowed low, but his mouth curved into a super shady grin. I knew it. You would definitely see the truth, principal. It is simply way too ridiculous. We need to permaban Lee Sehun for blatantly cheating and reset the exam. But instead of agreeing, the principal casually glided right past him. Yuha stopped dead in her tracks in front of Sehun's sword. Inon stared at her, totally lost. Principal Yuha carefully grabbed the blade, letting out a breathless whisper. This is absolutely unreal. Actual drool started sliding down Yuha's chin. Then she suddenly pointed straight at Sehun. Cadet Lee Sehun. Yuha threw out the wildest request, her eyes shining like a kid finding legendary loot. Can I take a bite out of this? No, wait, just one lick. Can I please just taste it once? The second she said that, Michael's brain completely blue-screened. His eyes were filled with pure confusion. Meanwhile, Inon just stared at her in shock. Just taste it. Suddenly a loud rumble echoed straight from Yuha's stomach. Hearing that, the entire crew was left completely stunned and speechless. Later that evening in the downtown area, Sehun casually strolled out of the academy. Standing under the blood-red sunset, a thought popped into his head. As expected, my final tuning was still a bit mid. The completion rate definitely did not hit max level. Thinking about this, Sehun tried to cope with the results. Even so, a smug grin spread across his face, his hair blowing in the evening breeze. He looked way too satisfied with himself. Seeing Vice Principal Barmett shaking with rage was honestly peak entertainment. A random passerby gave Sehun a weird look, whispering to their friend, "Bro looks like a total creep smiling like that." The friend quickly shoved them along. That guy is giving weird vibes, no eye contact, just keep walking. Back to Sehun, he suddenly stopped in his tracks. Wait a minute, now that I think about it. Barmett. That name sounds super familiar, but I cannot remember where the hell I heard it before. Sehun violently face-palmed, muttering the exact same name like a broken record. Boat. Flashbacks from his past life suddenly hit him like a truck. In his past life, Lewis was absolutely fuming. Back in Babel, he bought some cheap weapons after grinding manual labor for that bastard, only for them to literally blow up in his face. He had screamed his lungs out completely and totally devastated. It's all because of that absolute trash. My mana circuits got cooked, and now I'm stuck looking like a total loser. Damn it, if it wasn't for that guy. Sehun stared coldly at the phantom memory. Snapping back to reality, his footsteps stopped dead in their tracks. A totally unhinged realization just clicked in his brain. The blacksmith who permanently crippled Mad Dog Louis Valent. That dude's name was actually Bot. Was Hanbout actually that exact same guy? Sehun furrowed his brows. His main quest this life was to clutch up and reform the three hounds. But with Mad Dog, maybe he didn't even need to bother anymore. A wicked smirk crept onto Sehun's face. His eyes flashed with a sneaky vibe as a massive big brain play formed in his head. No cap, if he just stopped Hanbout from acting totally out of pocket, Lewis would never get caught lacking and turn evil. Suddenly the scene cut to the refining department's meeting room. Absolute chaos and angry shouting echoed through the walls. "Are you seriously letting that freshman Lee Sehun be our department's top dog?" One of the reps dragged the words out, sounding super salty and suspicious. Professors from other departments started chiming in. "Are you dead serious about this, Flex?" Someone next to them hesitated. "Even if that's your play, isn't this going way too far?" Yuna slowly planted both hands on the desk. Her chill gaze swept across the room full of haters. Her voice was deep, yet it commanded massive respect. "Does anyone here actually have the guts to object?" An old boomer professor shook his head. He looked a little intimidated, practically backing down. "Not exactly." But before he could finish, Michael totally interrupted him. "Think of this as some real talk." Michael casually kept going. "Let's be real, Principal. You've barely been warming that seat for a hot minute." Hearing that blatant disrespect, Yuna's eyes completely shifted. She wasn't even trying to hide her blazing fury anymore. Another hater piled on. "Right. We admit his gear is pretty fire, but we need to fact-check this way harder." That's when Enon instantly cut them off. "You boomers are only talking all this trash because you haven't seen Lee Sehun's Volt Flame scabbard with your own eyes. Sure, the crafting might look a little mid right now, but the way it handles mana, its insane synergy with the 5-color flame sword." One of them literally gasped. "It's absolutely OP, but honestly, I'm still sketched out about its practicality." Someone else instantly backed him up. "That weapon isn't even 60% finished. It's barely scratching the surface of what Lee Sehun actually wanted to build. And that exact flaw just proves how insanely cracked its potential is." She made sure to emphasize every single syllable. The room's vibe completely froze. Yuna slowly spoke up her words, dropping like heavy artillery. "If you still can't accept my decision, even after witnessing top student Lee Sehun's upcoming flex," she confidently laid down the ultimate ultimatum, "I will immediately step down and ditch my title as principal." No cap. Out in the massive plaza, Lewis's voice blasted through the magic amps. It echoed wide and heavy like some legendary ancient vow. 54 years ago, the heavens literally dropped the hero's tower to level up humanity. The mood instantly got heavy as a massive hologram showed the sky literally tearing apart. His voice dropped an octave, getting super intense. In response, hell straight up unleashed the swamp of chaos, literally rotting away all life. While we scored some wild new buff opportunities, an absolutely cracked disaster hit us at the exact same time. Standing dead center in the grand hall, Louis delivered his epic speech. His tone was incredibly hyped and majestic. Babel was forged right in the middle of that crazy chaotic flow. This is the most massive academy in history, built smack in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Up until now, Babel has spawned countless absolute chads and top-tier heroes. He dramatically called out the big names, like the literal GOAT, the Ascended Emperor Lord Louis Sutt. And very soon, you all will join their legendary ranks. His voice grew super passionate and raw. "Keep grinding and push forward, for every single one of you who set foot in this Babel Academy." His voice suddenly spiked, echoing like a sacred battle cry. "That is the ultimate hardcore mission of a hero." The dude who just dropped that epic speech was none other than the Ascended Emperor Louis Sutt. Sehun stood chilling in the crowd. He quietly sized up Lewis on the stage, already plotting his next big brain move. Seeing him up close like this, he gives off total nice guy energy. But let's be real. He's definitely not some pure innocent old grandpa. The hype man stepped up to the front, raising his mic. "Next up on the menu, we've got the absolute flex fest from this year's top-ranked freshmen. Will the valedictorians of each department please step up to the stage?" Hearing the call, the elite teens confidently strutted up. Sehun watched those arrogant tryhards flexing their status. His eyes darkened as a past life memory flashed by. Department top dogs, huh? Back in my past life, I always wondered why these clowns acted so totally full of themselves just for getting good academy grades. Right on cue, the MC hyped up the crowd. "All right then, we're diving straight into the skill showcase right now." Sehun rolled his eyes, a sarcastic smirk tugging at his lips. "Looking at this whole circus. Yeah, I totally get why they act like that." At the exact same time, the MC's voice boomed. "The target dummy taking the hits today is none other than this absolute unit." Right as he finished speaking, automaton model number 9 dropped into the arena. The second it appeared, the MC went completely wild. A heavy-duty golem fresh out the factory. Give it up for automaton model number 9. This bad boy literally packs the punch of a C-rank hero. Sehun locked his eyes dead onto automaton number 9. A hyped little smirk crossed his face. A combat-specialized automaton. It's not rocking any extra weapons, so it's definitely gonna throw down with straight martial arts, right? The MC dramatically pointed toward the arena entrance. Kicking things off, we have the absolute unit from the combat department. His voice was dripping with crazy dramatic tension. This showcase will be handled by Agakov's top dog Zale. Zale Myers Agakov's valedictorian. Right after the intro, Zale and automaton number 9 stepped onto the main stage. Sehun narrowed his eyes at the dark-haired, edgy teen walking out. Zale. Pretty sure that's the third son of the Myers clan. I heard rumors he's a total weirdo who's overly obsessed with bare-handed martial arts, even though he was literally born into a family of legendary swordmasters. Guess those rumors weren't cap after all. Right then, the MC screamed into the mic. All right, without further ado. Across the stage, the automaton's eyes flared up with a dangerous glow. That was the exact moment the MC dropped the signal. Let the beatdown begin right now. The second those words dropped, the automaton dug its metal heels into the dirt. It blitzed straight toward Jack, throwing a massive haymaker. But Jack just effortlessly sidestepped the attack. The machine went totally berserk, throwing a crazy flurry of punches. Jack leaped backward into the arena, his sneakers skidding across the concrete. He slowly looked up, locking eyes with the droid. Guess it is my time to shine. Without missing a beat, Jack full sent it straight at the automaton. He clenched his fist tight and delivered an absolute nuke of a punch right into its chassis. The whole freshman crowd was literally shook. They watched in dead silence as Jack absolutely combo-womboed the droid standing on the sidelines. Sehun Lee widened his eyes. Jack's burst speed was low-key insane. Wait, what the heck is going on? Sehun thought to himself. In my past life, I swear this guy died in his mid-20s as just a mid-A rank hunter. His mind was completely tripping right now. With stats like this, he should be Babel Academy's once-in-a-decade prodigy. No cap. Sehun muttered under his breath, totally baffled. So why did his leveling hard stuck at A rank before the regression? Back in the center of the arena, Jack flexed with a cold, savage smirk. Is that really all you got? For his grand finale, he swung his arm to end the battle. The automaton's head literally flew into the air before crashing into the dirt. Jack pulled his fist back, standing tall like a boss as the dust cloud cleared. He let out a deep breath. Man, it has been a hot minute since I got to flex this hard. The announcer's voice literally shook through the mic. Oh my god! He started screaming, totally hyping up the crowd. What an absolutely goated performance. Freshman Jack just one shot at a C-rank level automaton without even breaking a sweat. The hype man turned back to Jack, completely mind-blown. That is the absolute peak energy we expect from the AGF Vanguard Department's top scorer. Meanwhile, in the waiting zone, Sehun frowned, his brain working on overdrive. He really set the bar way too high right off the bat, Sehun realized. Whoever has to follow up that OP showcase is absolutely cooked. The loudspeaker crackled again, but this time the vibe was way more serious and heavy. Next up on the roster, give it up for the top scorer of the UR support department. Please, welcome freshman Erika Ino. Sehun raised an eyebrow as a girl with long raven hair stepped onto the stage. So she was the genius of the support class. But wait, was she feeling the pressure? Zero chance. She honestly could not care less. Erika was the eldest daughter of the Ino clan, literally one of the top 3 most OP families in Japan. In his past life, she wasn't a frontline carry, but she still locked in an S-rank status using a straight-up mythic tier weapon. But her endgame was super tragic. She got corrupted into a demonic fiend and was literally executed by her own bloodline. Sehun mentally crossed her off his list right then and there. Since she is fated to turn into a demon anyway, trying to party up with her is just gonna drag my stats down. But out of nowhere, Erika whipped her head around and locked eyes with him. Sehun completely froze, staring right back like a deer in headlights. His brain totally blue-screened as he watched her walk past. Wait, what the actual heck? He panicked internally. Did she seriously just clock me? Cutting through his thoughts, the announcer dropped the specs for the next test. The automaton for this round is the Armored Mark 9. Its defense stats are literally 1.5 times higher than the previous model. He screamed into the mic, making the whole stadium vibrate. Let us see if freshman Erika can clutch up and show us something fire. Suddenly, Erika summoned her familiar out of thin air. A pitch-black raven. Her eyes flashed with a villainous demonic glow. She whispered a single command code under her breath. Engage. The second the word left her lips, the raven shot forward like a bullet. It soared straight up into the sky and began diving around the automaton in tight circles. Catching this curveball, Sehun was low-key confused. A squishy raven, really? The massive battle droid tilted its head up, its mechanical eyes flashing with a wicked red laser light. From the sidelines, Sehun kept his eyes peeled on the machine's movements. He quickly analyzed its aggro state. That automaton just popped its full defense buff. Breaking through that tanky armor is gonna be rough, especially since it is literally built to soak up damage. Back on the stage, Erica's lips barely moved as she cast her skill. Instantly, the raven spread its dark wings wide, extending a set of razor-sharp lethal talons. One of the bird's eyes flared with a toxic green energy. Catching the sunlight on its feathers, the raven hit max velocity and dive-bombed straight toward the metal tank. Boom! The impact sent a massive shockwave through the arena, kicking up a totally chaotic dust storm. Watching this unfold, Sehun was absolutely flabbergasted. Through the smoke, the automaton's heavy plating was covered in spiderweb cracks, leaking wild electrical sparks. Wait, did that bird just drill a massive hole right through its chest core? Before anyone could even process the damage, the giant metal beast totally short-circuited and crashed hard into the dirt. Flexing casually, Erica flicked her wrist, and the raven glided right back to her. The MC completely lost his mind all over again. Unbelievable, this is absolutely unreal. The armored tank got one-tapped, a literal one-hit KO. She just armor-pierced a C-rank boss like it was made of paper. The crowd of students erupted into crazy cheers. Erica, you are the GOAT, watching from the wings. Sehun could only force a super awkward smile. Bruh, the hype in here is way too maxed out right now. His sweat dropped. If I just walk out, show off my crafted gear and dip, I am 100% getting booed off the stage. Right on cue, the announcer's voice echoed through the stadium. And for our final showcase, the top scorer of the BIPA Tech department. Let us hear it for freshman Sehun Lee, here. The hype man was literally vibrating with energy. Wrapping up this insane opening ceremony, we have the genius from the tech lab, Sehun Lee, up in the VIP suite. Head examiner Louis was watching the stream through a high-tech monitor. He could not help but chuckle. No cap, the power scaling of this year's freshman is completely off the charts. But man, how many seasons has it been since a crafting major snagged the top spot? Louis crossed his arms, low-key stressing for the kid. Following up those two monsters, is the stage fright going to cook him? Standing right beside him, Principal Ruaha. The second examiner just smirked with absolute confidence. Trust the process. That boy is not going to flop. The grandstand started buzzing as Sehun stepped out of the shadows into the spotlight. The MC threw the crowd a massive hyped-up grin. Can our tech prodigy drop a showcase that outshines the sheer OP chaos of Jack and Erica? Some girls in the front row were already swooning. Oh my god, his visuals are top tier. Meanwhile, the announcer leaned in super curious. Wait a second. Is he packing rare-grade equipment? That is insanely rare for a freshman crafter. The fan club screamed out, "Slay freshman." Ignoring the noise, Sehun gripped his hilt. Swing. He unsheathed his blade with a crisp snap, flicking it to the side as he locked onto his target. The second the blade caught the light, a massive holographic blueprint of the sword projected right behind him. It displayed a whole menu of crazy cracked-out system functions. An upperclassman in the stands leaned forward, looking impressed but slightly skeptical. Not gonna lie, a total noob crafting a rare-grade weapon on day one is straight-up wizardry. His buddy next to him winced a bit. Yeah, but compared to the nukes the other classes just dropped, it feels kinda mid. Whispers started spreading through the bleachers like wildfire. Is that it? A rare weapon? Kind of a basic flex, to be honest. I mean, Vanguard and support set the stage on fire. This is just... meh. A few freshmen scratched their heads, totally losing the hype. I honestly do not know what his win condition is here. Like, what is he even gonna do with that Ike? But chilling in the back corner of the stadium, Mikey let out a super cocky smirk. His eyes glowed with pure toxic ambition. The system RNG is finally on my side. Bro is absolutely cooked. The old man glared at Sehun with pure villain energy. With this big brain play, that headmaster seat at Bosapa is totally mine. But unlike Michael's, sweating Yuha's face was chill like a calm ocean. Back in the stands, the MC grabbed the mic to hype up the next showcase. A model number 10, packing stats on par with a D-rank hero. Nah. Sehun cut him off instantly. He locked in his eyes, flashing like a drawn blade. The whole plaza went dead silent. Swap it for model number 8, and do me a favor, stack some heavy armor on it. The MC almost dropped his script, totally shook. Wait, what is bro? Yapping about model number 8 can literally tank hits from B-rank heroes. And this dude wants to buff it with extra armor. Is he crazy? The MC started sweating bullets. About that? He stuttered nervously. It's kind of impossible to prep that on such short notice. Yuha deadpanned from the VIP seats. Is this kid trying to sabotage the whole showcase or what? Right on cue, Enon stepped up to the plate. I already took care of it. Boom. A massive chunk of metal spawned out of nowhere. Everyone stared up at the towering automaton. This bad boy was fully decked out in heavy-duty armor. The MC's jaw hit the floor. He actually had it on standby. Sweating profusely, the MC finally caved. Well, if you're really going all out? Sehun threw a sideways glance at Inon. The old man just smirked in silence, totally expecting a show. Trying to save the vibe, the MC yelled into the mic. Then let's see what you've got. Go absolutely wild. Though his smile was looking super forced. Honestly, I have zero clue how this match is gonna end. The MC took a deep breath. Begin. The second, the battle gong echoed. Inon clenched his fists, hyping himself up. Show them what you're made of, kid, Inon thought to himself. Sehun hit him with a cocky smirk. Bet. He locked eyes with his sponsor in the stands, absolute confidence radiating from him. Might as well give the old man his money's worth, right? Instantly his sword started glowing. An insane amount of aura violently erupted from the blade. Sehun dropped into a low stance. The raw energy swirled around him like a raging tornado. The crowd went absolutely feral. No cap, this is insane. Meanwhile, Yuha scoffed, throwing major shade. All flash, zero substance. What's a mid-tier magic user with zero mana capacity actually gonna do? She wasn't wrong. The elemental flames inside the 5-color fire sword constantly clash with each other. Without an overpowered amount of mana to control it, that explosion would straight up cook the user. But Sehun had a cheat code. By stacking the fire-hoarding scabbard's passive skill with a crimson flame injection technique, Sehun whispered under his breath. Charging sequence at 100%. Across the arena, the automaton popped its heavy defense shields. But Sehun was already moving. He swung his blade with explosive force, igniting the ultimate flame. The sheer shockwave of his attack made the entire stadium vibrate. Sehun's brain was running calculations at light speed. If I trigger the inferno right now, those compressed fire spirits are gonna... He locked onto the automaton's energy barrier. At the perfect clutch moment, he whispered, detonate. Up in the VIP section, Michael's face turned white as a ghost. He finally realized they were cooked. The MC literally forgot how to speak. What the actual heck is this mad lad doing? It took a solid minute for the massive dust cloud to clear. Sehun slowly sheathed his smoking blade. He let out a harsh, ragged breath, wiping sweat from his forehead. Job done. Sehun stared at the literal canyon he just carved into the arena floor. Oops. Might have gone a little too hard on that one. The MC finally snapped out of it, panicking. Tech support, get your butts down to the Central Plaza stat. He grabbed his mic with shaking hands. And with that absolutely busted performance, the showcase is officially over. Fast forward a bit. The sharp clicking of high heels echoed through the empty hallway. Inside the waiting room, Sehun looked super confused. The door opened and Oha actually bowed to him. I sincerely apologize for keeping you waiting after summoning you so abruptly. I was stuck running damage control on the absolute mess you made of the arena. Sehun awkwardly scratched the back of his neck. My bad, honestly. I'm the one who should be saying sorry. Kind of feel bad about nuking the Central Plaza like that. He mumbled, looking at the floor. Probably should have dialed the power scaling back a notch. Yuha blinked, totally caught off guard. What are you talking about, Cadet Sehun? Sehun froze, caught in 4K. Wait, didn't you drag me in here to chew me out? Yuha shut that down instantly. Of course not. The actual reason I wanted to meet with you is... Right at that dramatic pause, her stomach let out a massive growl. Sehun froze, his brain straight up lagging. Yuha coughed into her fist, her cheeks burning red. What I meant to say was... She finally dropped the bomb. I'm ready to pay 10 times the market value. She locked eyes with him, dead serious. Will you sell me the 5-color fire sword and its fire-hoarding scabbard? Sehun's eyes practically bulged out of his head. Bro, what? Right at that exact second, a soul link with Yuha snapped into place. She suddenly leaned over the table, totally changing her vibe. Pretty please, that gear is just too fire to pass up. Ding, a glowing blue holographic screen popped up right in his face. System alert. A binding contract has been formed with target Yuha. Current affinity level with creator Sehun Lee level 1. His jaw dropped, his pupils vibrating with pure shock. Wait, it leveled up this fast? In my past life, I had to simp and gift her dozens of weapons just to trigger this link. Sehun swallowed hard, trying to act cool. Thanks I guess. He mentally hyped himself up. Whatever a win is a win. I'll take the free buff. Runes of pure magic cascaded across his vision. The system's robotic voice echoed in his brain. Initiating contract extraction protocol. The AI voice suddenly got dramatic, like an unboxing for a god-tier item. Extracting data from target Yuha. Skill acquired Metal Devourer. Rank high tier. Rarity masterpiece. A sentient ore that generates thermal energy by cannibalizing other metals. Warning. This element will instantly corrode any metallic object it touches, absorbing its core stats into the host. Bro, it literally eats iron to generate blood ore. Sehun stared blankly at the holographic loot box floating in midair. Well, that was easy. But before he could celebrate, Yuha slammed her hands on the desk again. So we have a deal, right? You're selling it. He instantly shook his head. Nah, no shot. Yuha raised a brow, looking totally betrayed. But you literally just said it was a done deal. Suddenly a loud knock echoed from the door. Headmaster, it is I, In Kim. The old man's booming voice carried through the woods, sounding way too serious, like an absolute emergency. The academy director just sent word. The reward ceremony is kicking off right this second. Inan barked through the door. I need to borrow Cadet Sehun Lee immediately. Oha gave a slow nod, her eyes suddenly going dark and unreadable. Understood. Sehun practically bolted for the exit, but sneaked one last glance over his shoulder. Catch you later, headmaster. And while he tried to look cool, his own stomach started rumbling like a dying engine. Cut to the absolute heart of Babel Academy. The legendary glass bridge main building, Marik Manor. The scene cuts to the grand mansion. Sehun Lee is trailing right behind Inan. The instructor drops his voice to a whisper, but his glare is totally deadass. Watch your attitude in front of the academy's principal. No cap, you need to show some respect. He totally let it slide when you wrecked the hall during your showcase. Inan paused for a beat. But beyond that, his power level is literally in a different dimension compared to us. Sehun just gave a slight smirk, looking completely unbothered. Chill, sir. You don't need to stress over it. Sehun confidently stepped into the room. Principal Lith locked eyes with the young student. So you must be Cadet Sehun Lee, the Emperor of Ascension. Principal Lith. Before Sehun regressed through time, this absolute legend sacrificed himself, fighting a solo war against the demon god of destruction, one of the 6 great demon gods. The tragic memory of the principal's brutal death flashed through Sehun's mind. A massive wave of respect hit him right in the feels. A true perfectionist, aren't we? Lith finally spoke up. The weapons you showed off today, they were absolute fire. The principal let out a heavy sigh. I won't lie, there were some minor flaws, but my expectations for you are sky high. Hearing those words, Sehun froze. His inner perfectionist was triggered, burning like wild flames inside a forge. Even though he knew his gear was top tier, he honestly wanted to chuck his 5-color flame sword and his fire-accumulating scabbard right back into the furnace to reforge them. Right on cue, Lith made his offer. Therefore, to reward your insane talent and grind, I am granting you 2 custom rewards. The principal's aura grew heavy. Tell me exactly what you need. Sehun's eyes widened. For the first time, his cool guy facade cracked. Wait, 2 rewards. That is totally broken. He didn't even hesitate. His voice rang out with zero doubt. I want items that will buff my maximum mana capacity and boost my memory retention to the absolute limit. The moment he spoke, Lith swiped his hand through the air. A glowing magical sigil materialized out of nowhere. Sehun stared wide-eyed as 2 legendary artifacts spawned in front of him. The Black Ink Stone Hero Rank Masterpiece. Quality. A fragment radiating an inky aura dropped from the shadows. It had the insane passive ability to devour absolutely everything except darkness itself. This thing could absorb mana from anything that touched its crystal surface. Next up was the Dreaming Baku's Tusk, also hero rank. Sourced directly from a legendary dream-eating beast, it contained illusion mana powerful enough to shatter the boundary between reality and dreams. It literally let you hack into the dream realm. Sehun stood there looking completely shook. The Black Ink Stone was already crazy rare, but the Dreaming Baku's Tusk, that was basically a myth. Finding one was a 1 in a million drop. Sehun let out a savage smirk. These might be tricky to control right now, but I already know exactly how to break the system with them. Lith observed him for a long moment. Are you satisfied with the loot? Sehun bowed his head, showing his gratitude. They are absolutely god tier, sir. The second Sehun stepped out of the office, a mysterious voice echoed in the room. What exactly is your endgame here? The magic mirror was totally suspicious, handing a mere freshman 2 overpowered rewards. That is so out of character for you. It makes 0 sense. Lith just brushed it off. I gave them to him because that kid actually has the stats to handle them. The mirror couldn't help but sigh in awe. Is that so? Honestly, that boy gives off mad boomer vibes. He acts way too old for his age. The principal's voice dropped to a low rumble. That just proves how deep his aura really is. Even an artifact like you can feel his heavy presence. Lith stared down the ancient hallway, watching Sehun's shadow disappear. Besides, not even my eyes can calculate the true ceiling of that kid's potential. The scene cuts to the Maru mansion. Inside the buzzing classroom, the boys were yapping non-stop, hyping each other up. A cheerful student walked right up to Han. Yo, Han, where are we grabbing lunch today? Han rejected him instantly, flexing hard. Sorry, man. I have a private lunch date with Senior HW today. The student's jaw literally hit the floor. Wait, you mean the rank 53 top dog from the VIP department? Han shrugged, acting like it was no big deal. Our families are just super tight, so we chill all the time. He said he would give me some cheat codes on how to survive academy life. The other guy leaned in closer, totally desperate for clout. Bro, if possible, can I tag along? Right at that moment, Sehun kicked the door open. He shot Han a freezing deadpan glare. The second the main character walked in, the entire class shut up. You could hear a pin drop. Sehun's eyes locked onto Han like a sniper. A massive shiver ran down Han's spine. He panicked internally. What the heck is up with that psycho glare? Seeing his fear, Sehun gave a mocking sneer. Looks like this NPC finally realizes he is out of his league. Meanwhile, Han ground his teeth together. His massive ego was completely bruised. Damn it, am I really getting diffed by some low-tier trash? Suddenly, the classroom door swung open again. Enon strode in with boss energy. His fierce gaze scanned the room, checking the vibe. Everyone grab your seats right now. He looked around the silent room. All right, looks like the whole squad is here. Enon faced the freshmen and dropped the bomb. Since this is day one, we're going to kick things off with some introductions. He held up a strange metallic block. This right here is an ultra-rare material called reflection alloy. Its mana sensitivity is absolutely busted, dozens of times higher than normal ores. He demonstrated his grip. Because of that, if you push your mana into it like this, Enon paused, making sure they were paying attention. Whatever weapon you visualize in your mind will instantly take shape. Sehun watched the instructor with total respect. There was a reason this guy was ranked in the global top 100 artisans. He was not just some random teacher. I kind of figured it out during the contract stone test, but this guy is a legit prodigy. Enon took a breath, his voice dropping into a serious philosophical tone. Because it is so insanely sensitive, it is trash for actual combat. But it perfectly mirrors your subconscious, forcing you to confront your true self. He raised his voice, hyping up the class. That is exactly why we call gear made from this alloy. Alter egos. The refining department does not do boring speeches. Your introduction is forging your alter ego. Before stepping back, Enon added one last warning. Your final projects will be flexed in the main hall for a whole week, so do not cook up something mid— The cadets yelled back in unison. Understood, sir. Sehun's sharp eyes drifted over to Han. He ran the numbers in his head. Every single block of that reflection alloy had to cost over 10 million one classic Babel Academy. Even their icebreakers are stupidly expensive. At that exact moment, Han flinched as he grabbed his unfinished sword. Seeing his sloppy form, Sehun sighed in defeat. Literally no one in this room has any real talent. It is actually tragic. Right then, Enon called out the last name on the roster. Finally, Sehun Lee. Show us what you have got. Sehun stood up instantly. Yes, sir. He smirked inwardly. I am already the valedictorian of this department. No cap, there is zero reason to hide my true stats anymore. A wild, arrogant thought crossed his mind. If I am going to do this, I might as well break the scale. Sehun's pupils flared with the blazing fire of raw ambition. Should I just full send it? Then boom, a massive explosion rocks the classroom. Right on cue, some random dude starts throwing shade. The whole squad is pulling up, probably because Lee Sehun is the main attraction. He keeps hating with that salty tone. It is hilarious how they glaze him up, acting like his power level is just built different. Like bro is literally just a freshman. The guy next to him nods along. No cap, you are totally right. The hater leans in, giving a slow nod. That is exactly what I have been saying, man. They both look up to stare at the artifact right in front of them. Instructor Enon's voice suddenly echoes through the room. Even though there was a wild glitch during the crafting process, when it straight up absorbed 19 projection alloys nearby. We actually think this flexes Cadet Lee Sehun's insane talent. Because of that, we decided to put it on display exactly as it is. One of the students lets out a petty scoff. His salty voice cuts right through the whispering crowd. That was 100% a total fluke from some random skill buff. His buddy tilts his head at the masterpiece, eyes dripping with pure jealousy. Didn't that just happen because he spammed way too many projection alloys at the exact same time? Another hater chimes in. It has been forever since the refining department actually bagged a valedictorian. They are probably just trying to push his brand and act like he is some god-tier genius. Right on cue, Erica suddenly speaks up. I have got a slightly different take on this whole situation. Jack suddenly steps up, flashing an arrogant smirk. I am totally with you on that one. Jack lowers his voice, his tone turning dead serious. Honestly, it looks like the amount of projection alloy sitting right there is totally mid and not even enough to show off Lee Sehun's true OP potential. Meanwhile, in a totally different scene, a hammer smashes down hard. Right now. Lee Sehun's face is dripping with buckets of cold sweat. The man drops his voice, his eyes wide with pure unfiltered shock. Did you actually manage to clock his time? Up until now, bro has not even slipped up by 0.01 seconds. Han stares at him looking completely mind-blown. Like, what are we even supposed to teach a kid whose stats are already this broken? He lets out a dry chuckle. Let's just skip his turn and call it a day. He turns to the class and waves his hand. Who is trying to watch a live demonstration right now? A little while later, Han finally wraps things up. All right, class dismissed. Over on this side, Lee Sehun's eyes are completely glued to his hammer. Then he locks his gaze on the scrapped metal pieces scattered under the table. Without hesitating for a second, Lee Sehun raises his hammer high once again. Han suddenly chimes in. Are you seriously trying to completely nuke that thing? He immediately freezes and gives the teaching assistant a polite bow. He steps closer, making sure to drop a quick warning. We actually have to hand these items over after this week's forging class, so please do not completely wreck them, okay? Lee Sehun tilts his head, looking totally confused. Wait, we have to hand them over. Han just hits him with the most deadpan look. Bro, where do you think the cadets get the budget to actually do stuff around here? The Academy literally funds us based on how many of these weapons actually sell on the outside market. He goes quiet for a second before firing off a massive question. So, what exactly has got you feeling so cooked right now? Is it your physical stamina, or is your mana pool running dry? Caught off guard by the question, Lee Sehun just lets out a soft chuckle. Right now, my biggest debuff is my actual physical body. In that moment, a massive wave of complicated thoughts crashes through his mind. If I want to craft the ultimate training gear, I absolutely have to forge the Mach Seok stone. But my stamina is way too low to actually pull that off. The assistant tilts his head, his voice dripping with the temptation of a literal cheat code. If you seriously need that much juice for your forging process. After a quick second of thinking, he drops a massive brainwave. Wouldn't it be way faster to just spam some enhancement buffs instead of grinding your physical stats? Hearing that, Lee Sehun literally cannot hold back a laugh. I swear I never even thought about taking that route. Mainly because that is the one method I kept dodging before I regressed back in time. A cocky smirk creeps onto Lee Sehun's face like he just unlocked a hidden glitch in the system. Come to think of it, since I came back to the past and my stamina is totally cooked right now, I can totally just forge the Mach Seok stone while being completely hyped up on buff spells. He gives a polite little bow. Seriously, huge thanks for that clutch advice just now. Han shakes his head with a humble smile. Hey, it is really no big deal at all. Then Lee Sehun looks up, his sharp eyes locking right onto the sword in the assistant's hand. As he gets back into the forging zone, he casually drops a little reality check. Bro, you are burning through way too much mana for no reason right now. Nerf your output down to like 70% of what you are using. Then, put all of your strike power into one exact focused spot. Right before walking off, Lee Sehun drops one last hard fact. Trust me, doing that is gonna buff your results way more than whatever you're doing right now. Hearing that, the guy just flashes a totally awkward forced smile. Did a literal freshman just try to coach a teaching assistant? Then Han slowly turns around to stare blankly at the hammer. Meanwhile, the sky outside is basically turning into an absolute oven. The Babel Academy has always pushed this whole vibe of hardcore proactive self-study for every single cadet. The cold voice of the system suddenly pings in his head. The massive doors slowly begin to slide open, and the endless droning of an instructor's voice leaks into the hallway. You guys are totally free to snipe classes from other departments. You could even grind through dozens of courses in a single semester if you are feeling cracked. But no matter what, you still have to 100% complete all of your core major requirements. And if you manage to stack up 3 failing grades, you are instantly getting booted out of the academy, no cap. You have all the freedom in the world, but you better take responsibility for your own moves. Suddenly, the automated intercom system echoes through the train. Next stop is UR. UR, the designated zone for the magic department. Right on cue, Lee Sehun steps off the train looking as cool as ever. The second he lifts his head, Erica practically spawns right in front of him. Some random upperclassman instantly steps up, totally blocking the walkway with major attitude. Yo, quit body blocking the path and move it, scrub. Lee Sehun immediately narrows his eyes. Who even are these random NPCs? Why are they pulling up on me for absolutely no reason? He raises his voice, dropping a completely savage reality check. Actually, you guys are the ones who need to get out of my way. Hearing that absolute disrespect, the upperclassman literally starts shaking with pure rage. Erica just ignores him and steps right up to Lee Sehun. She tilts her head, genuinely curious. So where are you headed right now? Seeing Erica pull a stunt like that, the angry dude is left totally flabbergasted and confused. Lady Erica, Lee Sehun just gives it to her straight. I am heading to the magic department. I was just wondering if there are any extra minor courses I could snag to grind my stats. Seeing his hustle, she immediately drops a solid offer. Say less. I will totally play tour guide for you. The angry upperclassman panics and desperately cuts in. Wait. Lady Erica. Our VIP meeting is literally about to start right now. She just shuts him down without a second thought. You guys can just go ahead and do your own thing. The guy looks completely stressed out now. But the seniors were super clear that they desperately want you to pull up to this. Erica shoots him the coldest, most absolute dead-eyed glare imaginable. Her voice is completely chill, but it leaves zero room for any arguments. I literally could not care less about that right now. Panning back to Lee Sehun, his expression does not even twitch. Then the two of them just speedwalk right out of there. They completely ignore the guy screaming, "Lady Erica, wait," from the background. Once they are finally away from all the toxic noise, Erica turns back to him. Her eyes suddenly get extremely serious. So what kind of extra buff are you actually trying to get from these minor courses? Lee Sehun played it totally cool. I'm trying to dig into enhancement buffs, he said slowly. Erica raised an eyebrow, probing further. What kind of stat boosts are we talking about here? He didn't even sweat it as he answered. Something that maxes out physical specs but absolutely zero interference with my crafting process. Hearing this crazy demand, Erica immediately pitched an idea. Then why not try barrier magic? It might be exactly what you need. Lee Sehun froze in his tracks. Barrier magic. Bro, isn't that class of magic literally only used for tanking hits and defense? She took her time breaking it down. It's actually insanely versatile, totally depending on how you wield it. Erica whipped out a thin piece of paper from her pocket, gesturing to him. Let me show you a prime example. She held the paper out right in front of him. Go ahead, try to rip this apart. Lee Sehun snatched it up. Instantly, he felt a slick, invisible layer of mana coating the surface. He was legit stunned. Did she just cast a durability buff on this thing? No? Wait, that wasn't exactly what was going on here. The paper kept all its base stats and texture, but the moment a heavy external force hit it, it auto-scaled its defense to become practically indestructible. Lee Sehun stared dead at the scrap of paper. His mind raced, calculating the specs. This tech was insanely clutch for forging because it required god-tier microcontrol. Erica let out a soft chuckle. For high-level applications like this, you're probably going to need a professor to carry you. He stared blankly at the paper, a totally suspicious vibe creeping in. Hold up a second. This magic formula looks way too familiar. No cap. Meanwhile, she was just dropping lore dumps non-stop. The professor who teaches barrier construction. Yeah, he actually married into a branch family of my clan. So I can totally hook you up with a direct intro if you're down. Erica slightly raised her voice, flexing her connections. But out of nowhere, Lee Sehun shouted, "Yo, this is totally it." The magical paper was instantly shredded to pieces. Seeing her overpowered barrier just get trashed, she was straight up shook. Bro, did you just analyze my clan's secret barrier magic in literally 2 seconds, and you already cracked the code to dismantle it completely? Fast forward to the morning at UR University's magic department. Lee Sehun, rolling up right next to the top-tier girl right in the middle of campus, had everyone tweaking. They instantly became the center of all the whispering and toxic glaring. Why the heck is Erica hanging with some random from another department that's so mid? Dude, I swear I saw them questing together yesterday too. If my memory isn't bugged, they totally showed up together at the last exhibition. Surrounded by laser-focused glares and toxic campus gossip, Lee Sehun just let out a heavy defeated sigh. These fake news rumors are spreading way too fast, man. Why are all these clueless extras so obsessed with sticking their noses in my business? It's honestly a joke. If Erica was actually catching feelings for me, the system would have formed a bond link between us by now. Anyway, what kind of wild randomized stats do they even use to pick students for this class? I clicked register for this course, but now they're locking it behind a pretest. Erica stepped up and pointed ahead. All right, this is the drop zone for the barrier construction exam. Lee Sehun scanned the area left and right, his eyes narrowing with pure suspicion. Wait, we're doing it in this creepy forest. The other candidates were already raging and trash-talking. Freaking hell, what kind of backwater spawn point is this? Lee Sehun quietly analyzed the dense woods in front of him. Are they seriously making us play a low-tier treasure hunt just to take a test? This is starting to be a huge pain. Did the admins use a cloaking barrier to hide the actual objective or what? Lee Sehun casually stepped on a weird-looking glitch in the ground. Bam! The massive barrier wrapping the forest shattered into 1,000,000 pixels. The second the system crashed beneath his feet, a teaching assistant spawned out of nowhere and yelled, "You just cleared the exam." Lee Sehun was completely stun-locked, barely managing to blurt out, "Wait, literally what?" Meanwhile, Professor Robert glared at the teaching assistant standing by his desk looking highly suspicious. "You're telling me the elite miss of that top-tier clan is actually simping for the valedictorian of our department?" Professor Robert Berry, the big boss of barrier construction at UR Magic Department, scowled. The teaching assistant shoved a smartphone right in his face. No cap, Professor. Just look at the server logs on this list. He stared at the roster on the screen, sighing with a totally skeptical vibe. I knew it was suspicious when a high-level player like her suddenly queued up for a newbie tutorial class. Because of her insane clout, the player count for this exam tripled. But I'm not hyped about it at all, especially with that exclusive request from the young master of the In-Out Guild. So to filter out the weak, we buffed the difficulty this year by dropping the Labyrinth of Lost Souls. The Labyrinth of Lost Souls. An overpowered barrier that straight up hacks your senses and leaves you completely disoriented. Even though it's technically a low-level ward, any scrub with 0 magic stats wouldn't even sense the danger zone. Seeing the replay of what just went down, Robert was absolutely gagged. His mind was blown, recognizing the kid's true stats. Even without the young miss carrying him, he completely glitched out the labyrinth using pure instinct. He stepped up and projected his voice to the crowd. Listen up, newbies. Every single one of you in this zone has survived Phase 1. From this point forward, we are ranking your tiers based on the second trial. Some random extra threw his hand up, oozing false confidence. Professor, let me take the first crack at it. That tryhard was already calculating his moves, thinking this was a golden ticket to flex in front of Erica. Robert gave a lazy nod. Fine. Phase 2 is basically a speed run. You will channel your mana to completely dismantle the active barrier locked in front of you. Your grade is purely based on clear time. So don't be slow, and don't miss your inputs. The timer started. A massive glowing spiderweb barrier materialized, featuring a magical spider acting as the system's core. This little beast had crazy evasion stats, dodging the moment it detected mana pinging across its threads. And as long as its health bar wasn't empty, the whole web would auto-heal forever. Staring down the boss mechanic, the volunteer totally choked. He started sweating buckets, doing the math in his head. If I try to nuke this whole magic structure the normal way, my mana pool is gonna drain way too fast. If that's how it is, I'll just blitz it with raw speed stats. Moments later, the professor checked his timer and hit him with a brutal reality check. 2 minutes and 23 seconds. You need to stop button mashing and actually read the structural code. Still, for a rookie, that clear time isn't completely cooked. The dude sneaked a peek at the young miss, desperately hoping she noticed his clutch play. But Erica's face was straight up frozen, giving zero reaction like a totally blank screen. Taking the massive loss, the student just bowed his head in defeat. Thank you for the carry, Professor. Robert wasn't wasting any time, barking his next command. Next player in the queue. Hurry it up. After the whole lobby wiped, he let out a massive sigh. Looks like all of you scrubs are getting stuck in the tutorial class. Next up on the roster, Erica In-Out. Step up and show them how it's done. She walked up to the plate completely unbothered. Erica didn't even chant. She just tapped a single finger against the barrier's surface. Flash. The entire matrix flared with blinding light before shattering into 100 glitching pixels. The whole zone went dead silent. Every single student in the crowd was completely mind-blown, jaws dropping to the floor. A second later, the hype exploded like a shockwave of absolute madness. Bro, how was she that crazy fast? She literally decoded the entire formula and completely shattered the barrier. The top student is built different, no cap. While the crowd was hyping her up, the proctor stepped forward. Robert glared at his stopwatch, speaking with absolute ice. 22 seconds. Not bad at all. But if you used the standard dismantling method, you could have shaved off 2 seconds. Facing Robert's brutal feedback, Erica did not even flinch. She just gave a chill bow and replied, "I will keep that in mind, sir." He did not say another word. His sharp gaze locked onto the next student, silently flexing his insane standards. Then he barked out the final name. Lee Sehun. Watching Sehun step up to the plate, Robert low-key judged him in his head. This kid looks totally mid. Let us see if he actually has any skills, or if he is just cooked. Instead of rushing to cast a spell or doing some try-hard prep work, Sehun just casually sat down, right in front of the energy barrier. The crowd of students instantly started murmuring. What the heck is this dude doing? Does he not realize the clock is literally ticking? But Sehun stayed totally unbothered. His gaze was absolutely locked in, mentally dissecting every single layer of that energy shield structure. This barrier shared the exact same vibe as Inkstone. It had crazy self-healing hacks, snapping right back to normal unless you hit it with an OP attack. So to actually forge this super rare material, a blacksmith had to channel their impact at the exact same millisecond with perfect stats. Eventually, Robert completely lost his patience. He stomped over to press the kid. What kind of troll move are you pulling here? But before he could pop off, a girl's voice instantly cut him off. Just let him cook, hit with Erica's absolute boss energy. The proctor was totally stunned into silence. Robert kept his mouth shut, gritting his teeth as he backed down. In that dead silence, Sehun's galaxy brain was working in overdrive. If I tweak the formula like this, can I trap the kinetic energy inside the stone? Instead of just crumbling or vanishing like basic magic, the second his finger tapped the weak point, the entire barrier erupted into blazing flames. While everyone else was literally shook to their core, Sehun just dropped a super casual line, acting like he just finished a boring side quest. "And I am done." He smirked to himself, realizing the truth. With just this simple trick, forging inkstone is gonna be a piece of cake. Sehun stood up and casually strolled right over the glowing, shattered fragments. Treating that OP barrier like it was absolute trash, he walked away without missing a beat, completely ghosting the staring crowd. The teaching assistant checked the timer and yelled out, 7 minutes and 45 seconds. Robert stared at Sehun's retreating back, realizing his clear time did not even matter. Sure, it took him 7 minutes this time, but if he ever faces that barrier again, he is gonna one-shot it in a literal blink. This kid did not just brute force the shield. He straight-up engineered a brand new formula to completely delete that spell from existence. Erica watched the lone wolf walk away, her eyes swirling with major anxiety. If his god-tier forging skills merge with magic, what kind of totally busted OP artifact is this guy going to spawn next? A notification suddenly popped up on the system. "We have received an intermediate forging request using hero-class materials, or higher applicant first-year student Lee Sehun, per Article 8 of the Forge Safety Protocols. Any VIPs wanting to supervise this session hit up the admin office as soon as possible." The professor stared at his monitor, totally spacing out as he thought to himself, "I wonder how many top tiers are actually going to show up for this." Suddenly his direct messages started blowing up, leaving him completely shook. Dang, these guys are crazy fast. But weirdly enough, not a single person from Vice Principal Michael's faction applied. Rumor had it their squad was super salty because his son just got bumped to second place. Looks like that tea was completely legit. The professor started swiping through the list. "Alright, guess I should start picking the supervisors." But then, his eyes practically bulged out of his skull. He read a VIP message that literally broke his brain. The principal herself announced she was going to personally supervise Lee Sehun's session. Suddenly, Yoonha spawned right out of nowhere. "Long time no see, kid. Student Lee Sehun." Sehun froze in his tracks, secretly totally shook. "You are practically swamped with VIP duties. Why did you come all the way down to this mid-tier forge?" Flexing her massive principal aura, she replied coldly, "I came here to see with my own 2 eyes if your skills are actually fire, or just hype." Sehun dodged Yuna's intense gaze, murmuring back, "Well, since you crashed the party, I guess I have to go absolutely all out." Without another word, he instantly triggered his crafting mode. Phase 1 of the Inkstone Forge. Honestly, there are a ton of ways to hack this rock. But the most insane high-difficulty technique, the literal Midnight Protocol. You have to dunk the stone in pure pitch-black darkness. Then you blast it with mana to filter out the trash stats while the inkstone liquefies and spreads like dark water. During this phase, it is literally do or die. One micro-slip in your mana control, and the stone gets permanently bricked, turning into completely useless junk. Saying it out loud sounds like a breeze. But in reality, it is like rearranging molecular code from scratch. Yuna stayed dead silent, hardcore, analyzing Sehun's every single micro-movement. While his hands flowed with godlike rhythm, Sehun's brain was running cold, hard math. Is 25% seriously the max limit I can squeeze out of this thing? If I shrink the volume any more than that, the final stats are going to be totally mid. Moving to phase 2. He ignited a blazing crimson inferno right from his palms. The insane heat swallowed the metal block, literally warping the space around them with every breath Sehun took. He channeled his mana through the deep red flames, perfectly filtering the exact elemental stats he needed. This hyper-stable flame was the legendary Flowing Wildfire. Its absolute broken trait, it locked its temperature at the exact mega heat from the very second it was spawned. Phase 3, the ultimate strike. He wrapped his hammer in the Flowing Wildfire and slammed it down onto the heavy inkstone. The clutch move here was zero downtime. He had to spam strikes until the flames fixed the stone's shape. Staring at the blazing inferno, Yuna thought to herself, even if this kid has an OP fire immunity passive, there is no way he is not feeling that insane pain. How much of his own hit points has he sacrificed for this? But Sehun just kept swinging his hammer like a madman, totally high on the adrenaline of the forge. While the hammer strikes blasted through the workshop somewhere in a dark corner of the campus, Erica was still ghosting in the shadows, waiting for Sehun. Totally ignoring Sehun's crazy try-hard energy, Yuna stood off to the side, looking completely unbothered. The principal was literally spamming yawns, looking like she was about to pass out from sheer boredom. 4 grueling hours of grinding at the forge later. The inkstone had absorbed the flames to its absolute max capacity, and now its core stats were finally starting to mutate. Sehun let out a heavy breath. Cooked it, he thought. The crazy mutation finally stopped. He melted down the refined inkstone and poured the glowing sludge straight into the prepped mold. Yuha's exhausted expression vanished in a flash. Her eyes went wide, totally shook. Wait. Casting not forging, she thought, mind blown. The stats were bound to scramble because of the pure darkness lurking inside that mold. What on earth is bro thinking? Step 4. But just as Sehun was about to dive into the 4th phase, Yuha suddenly yelled out, trying to block him. Hold up, so. But ignoring her fierce warning, he did not even tap the brakes. Sehun's brain was completely hyper-focused. Magic circles and insane calculations were literally glitching through his mind like a supercomputer. He forced the Inkstone's mutation to lag using a wild barrier-breaking formula. In that split-second window, he hardwired an entire mana circuit from scratch. Talk about clutch. Just as the mana circuit locked in during that brief chaotic mutation, the entire room went dead silent. The chaotic energy just flatlined, revealing the final drop in Sehun's hand, an ink spider bracelet dripping in an abyssal pitch-black aura. The second the item materialized, a cold robotic voice shattered the silence. The iconic system window popped up right in his face. Permanent item ink spider bracelet has been successfully crafted. Absolute cinema. To shatter the meta, a fearless challenge is mandatory. Though the material's true potential remains locked, the blacksmith's skill in forging new possibilities is certified top tier. No cap, the system was hyping him up. You have acquired the skill Black Soul Thread. Ink spider bracelet. Rarity rare grade. That is a straight up W. A standard bracelet forged by smelting heavy inkstone. It rocks a sick passive that absorbs the wearer's mana. But here's the catch: its weight scales up based on how much juice it sucks up. By absorbing and storing the user's mana, it unlocks the absolute OP skill Burst Ring. In the dead quiet room, Sehun let out a breath and smirked. Nailed it. But right at that dramatic peak, Yuha's stomach let out a thunderous growl. It was so loud it practically announced her hunger to the whole server. He froze, side-eyeing her with a solid bro expression. Yuha turned beet red, instantly slapping her hands over her stomach to hide the ultimate betrayal of her own body. Sehun just looked up at the ceiling and sighed. It was like watching a high-level boss lose all her aura in seconds. He inspected the bracelet, dropping his honest review. Wait, is this the resonance phenomenon? Pretty fire, right? Looks basic, and honestly the raw power is kinda mid. But if we play this smart, we can totally stack it for a set effect. Acting like the stomach growl never happened, he casually slid the new gear over to her. My bad for not handing you a proper weapon, especially when you are taking aggro all because of me. I do not know if this will hit the spot like a little snack to kill the cravings, but you should definitely take it. Sehun did not say another word. He just stood there, locking eyes with Yuha. She grabbed the gear from his hand and suddenly popped her unique skill Soul Forge. Yuha took a little test bite and gave her verdict. Okay, this actually tastes pretty fire. He blinked, totally caught off guard. For real. She deadpanned right back. Yeah, metaphorically speaking. It gives off crispy fried tempura vibes. Sehun let out a mental sigh of relief. Thank God. Wait, did I seriously just build a habit of min-maxing my crafting to fit her taste buds? Grinding that affinity level with her is gonna be too easy at this rate. A soft smile crossed his face as he looked at her. Glad it hits the spot. She gave a satisfied nod and spoke up. Obviously. Though it is a bit of a bummer snacking on this when all that top-tier loot is sitting right there. By the way, when are you gonna deal with the 5-color blade and the flame-storing scabbard? Sehun shook his head, keeping that signature chill look in his eyes. I am not planning on selling them anytime soon. Yuha paused, looking mad confused and a little impatient. Hold up, what do you mean, is the market price still too mid for you? He coolly replied, I am hoarding them for the raid conquest class. Sehun smirked to himself, plotting. Plus, like they say, hunger is the ultimate flavor enhancer. He gave her a firm nod, sealing the promise. The second I craft some endgame gear worthy of you, you will be the first to know. Her cheeks flushed. Brushing off the awkwardness to regain her boss aura, she said, I will be waiting for that drop. Anyway, are we completely done grinding at the forge? Yeah, we are done, he confirmed. Yuha immediately took charge. Let's bounce then. The staff will come clean this up. Sehun replied, his voice totally raspy. Thank God, because my stamina bar is literally at 0. Taking a step, his vision suddenly blurred and he straight up started falling backward. Panicking, she lunged and caught him before he hit the floor. Bro, are you okay? Yuha asked, her voice laced with worry. He shook off the dizziness and muttered, Yeah, I am good, just severely messed up my stamina management. She stepped up with a demand. I am carrying you back to the dorms, or what, are you scared of heights? Sehun shot back without hesitation. No, I am not. But before he could even react, Yuha scooped him up in a full-blown princess carry. Let's ride, she planted one foot, charging her power. Boom! Yuha blasted into the sky like a literal lightning bolt. Mid-air keeping him tight in her arms, she cycled her aura, totally amazed. No way did that mold I just ate actually buff my stats this much. Being carried like a damsel and zooming through the sky at breakneck speed, Sehun just gave up and accepted his fate. Man, he thought this timeline is already way too different from my past life. Things are getting wild. Meanwhile, Erica was still camping out on the campus grounds, stubbornly waiting for him. Is Sehun really not showing up? I have to hand him this party invite. Over on the Babel Academy's metallurgy department freeboards, some Anon snapped a sneaky pic of Erica and stirred the pot. Why is she even lurking over here? Isn't she literally the top ranker of the combat department? A flood of question mark comments spammed the thread. One user dropped the lore. She has been standing AFK in front of the main building for 3 whole hours. Shaking my head. The replies instantly blew up. Is she camping for the boss department's valedictorian? Saw her waiting at his dorms last time too. Is it really just a coincidence? Bro, if that is the case, why not just call him to come down? Shut up, idiot, I am just theorizing here. Is cooking up rumors illegal now? Damn it! Sehun had already scrolled through the viral thread. Feeling completely defeated, he muttered, "What in the world is even happening right now?" He quickly mentally reset. Whatever. If it is a main quest, they will definitely track me down again. Right on cue, the classroom doors swung wide open. A middle-aged man stepped up to the podium. Nice to meet you all, rookies. Starting today, I will be running the tool comprehension class. My name is Ricardos Mais. He slammed his hand against the door to grab everyone's attention. Listen up, everyone, he barked. Get your butts to the training center right now. The last one there is totally cooked and has to run 20 laps around the stadium. So, go. The second Ricardos dropped the command, the students instantly booked it. Everyone was totally stressing out. Like, why are we suddenly doing crazy cardio? Sehun was sweating bullets in the middle of the chaotic mob. Wasn't this supposed to be a chill theory class? The other kids wouldn't stop complaining. I have no clue what is happening, just keep running. The whole squad finally made it to the center. But Sehun took a massive L and ended up in last place. Now he was stuck running those 20 penalty laps. He just kept jogging, totally unfazed. Yeah, I am on it, he muttered. The random NPCs watching from the sidelines immediately started talking trash. Bro's stamina is actually in the trenches right now. No cap, there is 0 chance he survives the intermediate forging exam. A little while later, Ricardo stepped up to the front. All right, eyes on me, he yelled out. His vibe shifted completely, looking dead serious. Tool comprehension used to be a straight-up boring theory class about gear mechanics. But, thanks to the recent string of fire sword hijackings, we have to completely flip our training meta. There is a whole syndicate actively targeting blacksmiths right now. Specifically, anyone who can craft hero-tier fire swords or higher. The streets are calling them the Fire Sword Hunters. Sehun listened intently while grinding out his laps. He thought to himself, even back in my original timeline before I regressed, that whole case was a totally unsolved mystery. Ricardos kept dropping knowledge bombs. It does not matter how insane your defensive setups are. At the end of the day, your own body is your ultimate shield. His voice boomed across the entire training field, which is exactly why we are mixing things up. Alongside studying gear, you are going to learn how to throw down and actually survive. The students screamed back in perfect sync. Understood, sir. Ricardos gave a satisfied nod. Perfect. For today's session, we are focusing purely on sword combat. Meanwhile, Sehun was mentally preparing himself. I seriously need to play it safe and stay low-key this time around. He kept pushing his legs, refusing to quit. If I want to actually survive the insane battles coming up, grinding my physical stats has to be my absolute priority. Sehun tightly clenched his fist as he analyzed his gear. I literally crafted this thing myself, but I cannot even lie. The stat buffs on this item are absolutely fire. A glowing system window instantly popped up. It was the Inkstone Bracelet, an insanely OP custom drop. It actively drains the user's mana to multiply its own physical weight. By hoarding all that magical energy, it unlocks the Explosive Circle skill. The Explosive Circle is a totally broken utility skill. It lets the user completely manipulate gravity within a 1-meter radius. It is an absolute game changer for close quarters combat. He checked out his updated system status window, feeling super hyped. My base stats have already gone up by an average of 5 points. He started locking in on his ultimate goal. Before my freshman year wraps up, I need to get totally shredded. I have to max out this body's potential no matter what. Sometime later, Ricardos finally called him over. Enough running, Sehun, get over here right now. Sehun glanced down at his hand, feeling the power of the explosive ring. Ricardos was secretly analyzing the kid's whole vibe. Your physical specs are honestly way less mid than I expected, the teacher admitted. Ricardos tossed a standard training blade his way. Let's see if you actually have any talent for the sword. Give it a swing. Sehun grabbed the hilt, sizing up the weapon. My mobility is definitely nerfed right now because of this ink spider bracelet. He hesitated for a split second, totally second-guessing himself. The move I am thinking of isn't exactly some polished, high-tier technique, but maybe I should just full-send it and try that move anyway. Sehun finally locked in and brought the blade crashing down. Immediately, all the random students started laughing and trolling him. Bro is moving in slow motion. He is probably completely cooked from those penalty laps. I mean, his form isn't complete trash, but still. However, Ricardo saw something entirely different. No, that strike was actually cracked. The trajectory of his blade was absolutely flawless, like it already knew its exact destination. The veteran teacher spun around, totally mind-blown. Your pacing is way too frantic, though. You need to fix your tempo before we go any further, Ricardos advised. In a fraction of a second, Sehun's gaze turned insanely lethal. Ricardos felt a violent shudder rack his entire body. The whole world seemed to flash completely white before his eyes. The teacher froze, his pupils shaking in absolute shock. A cold blade was literally resting right against his throat. Ricardos was completely spiraling internally. Did I seriously just get jump-scared by a low-level engineering student? Was that insane killing intent just a crazy hallucination? He swallowed hard before asking, "Who exactly taught you that wild sword technique?" Sehun just gave a slight smirk on the outside, but internally the kid was freaking out. Wait, why did that random move actually work just now? That old guy literally told me he cooked up that technique in like 10 minutes. It was supposed to be completely improvised garbage. Sehun suddenly had a flashback to his past life. He remembered Wang Shu casually scratching his ear, looking super guilty. Come on, bro. I swear I will pay you back next time. Everyone goes broke sometimes. Why are you tripping out over a little cash? The old man had been practically begging on his knees. Can I just pay you back with a secret skill instead? I will teach you a literal masterclass technique, just please chill out, snapping back to the present moment. Sehun awkwardly scratched his head, deciding to lie straight to his teacher's face. Oh, I just binge-watch a ton of highlight reels from famous heroes online. Ricardos obviously thought that was cap, but he smiled anyway. Swordplay. Do you actually want to get formally trained, kid? He made a sudden, massive offer. I am going to write you a letter of recommendation for the body control class at AGAQUF. Later that afternoon, at the AGAQUF facility, Sehun was standing there looking completely lost in the massive crowd. Meanwhile, Wang Shu was literally stomping his feet, throwing a massive tantrum. How many times do I have to tell you, bro? I literally have 0 things left to teach you. But Jack was totally acting like a simp, refusing to let it go. Please, master, do not do me dirty like this. This old dude was actually a retired S-rank hero and one of Sehun's regular VIP clients. Demon Wang Shu, globally known as the legendary Swordbreaker. Sehun was absolutely shook to his core. Ain't no way this degenerate gambling addict who is always drunk is an actual professor. Spotting Sehun standing there, Wang Shu immediately snapped at him. And who the heck are you supposed to be, kid? Sehun pulled out the envelope and introduced himself. I am Sehun Lee, a freshman from the metallurgy department. Professor Ricaros hyped me up and sent me over here with this recommendation. The old man raised an eyebrow, genuinely caught off guard. Wait, that stingy guy Ricaros actually vouched for you. Jack scrambled up from the floor to drop some lore. That kid is literally the top scorer for the BOSPA department this year. Wang Shu gave Sehun a brutal visual pat-down. I don't know, man. He looks incredibly mid to me, he said bluntly. Then the old master turned his attention back to the desperate student. Hey, Jack. Are you really that thirsty to learn my techniques? Jack got totally hyped and nodded frantically. Yes, sir. More than anything. Wang Shu instantly pointed a finger right at Sehun. Bet. If you can completely clap this freshman in a fight, I will take you on as my disciple. He immediately set up the rules for a hardcore sparring match. We are doing sudden death rules, just one single round. First one to land a clean valid strike on the other takes the W. Wang Shu dramatically waved his hand to kick things off. All right, boys, let the battle begin. The absolute second the words left his mouth, Jack blitzed forward at breakneck speed, but Sehun just stood there totally frozen, gripping his training sword for dear life. Wang Shu narrowed his eyes, trying to read the kid's crazy strategy. Is he deliberately dropping his guard to max out his agility by completely turning off his muscle tension? If that is really his play, hitting him with a direct strike is completely useless. The only hard counter to that stance is forcing a grappling match. But before anyone could process the high IQ mind games, Jack had already unleashed a savage haymaker. Kwang Su let out a heavy sigh. This is exactly why I can't stand you show-offs, he grumbled. You're all about that big brain energy, but you don't even know how to throw down for real. Total buzzkill, the instructor complained. You guys are totally mid. But right on cue, Jack lunged forward and locked his arms around Sehun's waist in a desperate tackle. Sehun gritted his teeth, totally caught off guard. What kind of OP strength is this, he thought to himself. Without missing a beat, he activated his explosive ring skill. A blinding flash of aura erupted from his body. Sehun totally clutched the match, flipping the script in a split second. He hissed, absorbing the sting of the impact. His glowing fist stopped mere inches from Jack's face as blood dripped slowly from the top student's nose. Smirking, Sehun flexed on him. Looks like my speed is just built different, huh? The whole arena went dead silent. Finally, Jack broke the tension. That last strike, it was absolute fire. Before he could even finish hyping him up, Kwang-Soo barked his orders. Show's over, everyone clear out. He then glared at Jack. I believe I promised to mentor you only if you actually caught the W. Hearing this, Sehun casually sat up and hit him with the ultimate logic. Since I just cooked him, shouldn't I be the one getting those premium lessons? He decided to drop some extra salt. Man, the top dog of the AGA department getting absolutely wrecked by a BPA student. No cap, that sounds low-key pathetic. Jack's jaw hit the floor. Pathetic. Kwang-Soo couldn't help but agree. The kid is spitting straight facts. I probably need to beat some sense into this bozo just so he doesn't get himself totally cooked out there. Jack hyped up instantly. Wait, really? The instructor shot him a stern look. I'll drop the schedule in your DMs. Don't you dare ghost me. Meanwhile, Sehun was mentally celebrating his massive W. Jack bowed a full 90 degrees. Thank you so much, Master. Kwang-Soo sighed, waving him off like a totally annoying NPC. Yeah. If we're done here, bounce. The instructor then shifted his piercing gaze to Sehun. I still have some private business to discuss with this overpowered freshman. Once it was just the two of them, Kwang-Soo's vibe turned dead serious. Show me that sword technique again. The one you used to totally roll Regressor. Sehun nodded without hesitation. Say less. Tension flooded the room. Sehun dashed forward, his blade slashing through the air. But in a literal fraction of a second, Kwang-Soo parried, sending Sehun's weapon flying across the room. Sehun stood there totally shook. This move is designed to one-shot your enemy instantly. Kwang-Soo analyzed coldly. The concept is straight fire, but your execution is painfully mid. Do you seriously think it's okay for a so-called ultimate technique to get easily countered the second time you spam it? The instructor was practically fuming. If I ever catch the clown who taught you this trash, I'll personally snap their legs. The hilarious irony, little did Kwang-Soo know he was the exact guy who had taught it to Sehun in his past life. Kwang-Soo let out another exhausted sigh. Just watch and learn, kid. I'm gonna take this janky skeleton of a technique and build it into an absolute masterpiece. Sehun just kept his cool. So does this mean I'm officially off the wait list and in your exclusive class? Kwang-Soo scoffed, but gave a firm nod. No cap, you're in. Bag secured, Sehun threw up a peace sign. All right then, I'm gonna head out. Watching the kid leave, Kwang-Soo muttered to himself. That brat's attitude. He's way too edgy for his own good. Once outside, Sehun rolled his eyes hard. Acting all high and mighty when he's literally just giving me customer service. Suddenly, Jack jogged up from behind. Yo, hold up! Sehun blinked, clearly annoyed. You're still lurking around here? Ignoring the sass, Jack whipped out a fancy envelope. I actually waited to give you this. Sehun stared at it like it was a trap. The heck is this? Jack puffed his chest out with pride. An exclusive invite to join the Noblesse Club. Basically, it was the ultimate VIP squad for the Academy's most elite trust fund babies. Sehun's mind started racing. Was Erica plotting to slide him this invite all along? Jack was hyped, totally missing the vibe. Sure, it is packed with stuck-up snobs, but it's a major flex for your resume. Sehun, however, wasn't feeling it. I don't know, man. Joining a snob fest seems like an easy way to get targeted. Jack just flashed a golden retriever smile. Bro, you totally carried me into that masterclass. Hooking you up is the absolute least I could do. Seeing the dude's genuine gratitude, Sehun finally cracked a smile. Thanks, man. Later, while walking through the campus, he started doing the math on his current electives: barrier architecture and body mastery. I definitely need to stack my build with another minor from the BPA department. Right now, I'm torn between curses, alchemy, or enchantment. Lost in his own head, he literally crashed right into someone. Sehun stumbled back, ready to apologize. But his eyes widened in shock. A crazy-eyed girl had already snatched his wrist, staring intensely at his gear. Did you craft this item yourself? Sehun matched her weird energy. Yeah, so what if I did? Her eyes sparkled like an absolute maniac. Let me enchant it for you, please. Suddenly, a transparent blue screen popped up in his vision. System alert. A new bond with target. Leah Claudel has been successfully established. Leah Claudel, she wasn't just some random NPC, she was an absolute glitch in the Matrix, an enchanter who could push gear up by 2 whole tiers. A genius among geniuses. The legendary crafter who shattered every established rule. The one destined to completely flip the entire enchantment industry on its head. Leah literally screamed, fangirling over the item. Inkstone gear at the rare tier. No shot. Her brain went into overdrive. If I just plug in a few custom formulas... No, wait. This base is way too cracked to just settle for that. She grabbed her hair, looking like she was about to short-circuit. This is driving me crazy. How do I maximize this absolute unit of a weapon? Watching her geek out, Sehun deadpanned. Didn't realize the genius was this unhinged, he thought. Trying to snap her out of it, he asked flatly. Is the gear trash or something? Leah instantly fired back, defending the craft. Are you kidding? The problem is I want to do too much to it. It is forged from basic inkstone, so how is the mana sink this freaking high? There are literally way too many god-tier formulas I could use. My brain is lagging. Sehun just chuckled, pulling something else out of his inventory. If that is the only issue, then we are chilling. He dropped the shiny materials right in front of her. Because I've got a ton more right here. He gave her a pro-level tip. Also, it has a resonance effect, so make sure your enchantment doesn't ruin the stat multiplier. Leah looked at him like he was a literal god. Who exactly are you? Striking a cool pose, he flexed his title. The name is Lee Sehun, freshman in the alchemy department and the overall top scorer of BIPA this year. Leah's jaw dropped. A freshman you're capping. That's actually insane, I'm a third year from enchantment. But before they could officially team up, some random dude crashed their vibe. We need to talk. Come with me right now. Sehun instantly recognized him. Isn't that Erica's little lapdog? Leah, totally triggered, glared at the intruder. Excuse me. Can't you see we're in the middle of a massive brainstorm here? The lackey tried to dial back the aggro, keeping his voice low. Look, I'm trying to handle this without making a scene. Just give me 5 minutes of your time. But Sehun wasn't having any of it. Whatever you have to say, spit it out right here. The lackey sighed, finally dropping his demand. Apologize for being so disrespectful to Lady Erica. You actually ripped up the lady's invite right in front of everyone? Are you insane? Zion just tilted his head, looking totally lost. Bro, she literally told me to shred it. No cap. The lackey's eyes flared with absolute rage. Yeah, right. Keep yapping with your totally mid-excuses. You never should have taken that invite from the Myers family to begin with. Zion rolled his eyes, clearly annoyed. Did Erica send her little lapdog to bark at me? The dude panicked. Nah, this is strictly personal, you punk. Right on cue. Leah let out a savage laugh. Oh, totally believable. She mocked, dropping 0 hints of mercy. Literally everyone at Babel knows you're just the young master's ultimate simp. That comment absolutely cooked him, sending his anger through the roof. How does a literal NPC like you have this much audacity? The lackey snarled. You're acting way too OP right now. Bro really thinks he's the main character. He kept roasting Zion. Babel Academy is packed with actual prodigies who would wipe the floor with your trash stats. But Zion wasn't even sweating. He just smirked and hit back. Wait, are you projecting? Sounds like you're talking about yourself, bro. That counterattack hit the dude like a critical strike. Humiliated, the lackey screamed, "Shut your mouth right now." His explosive aura flared up like crazy. But Zion just stood there, effortlessly raising a single hand. With literally one hand, he blocked the swarm of phantom beasts charging at him. The fierce magical energy fizzled out like a broken glitch. Zion let out a low, impressed whistle, just as I suspected. That wasn't just some basic mana projection. Zion locked eyes with him. You actually used a real dagger as a catalyst to make those phantom strikes hit like a truck, didn't you? The lackey was totally shook, his voice trembling like a coward. How did you figure that out? Zion casually twirled the snatched dagger in his hand, looking cool as ice. Who knows, men trade secret, he chuckled, his eyes glowing with wild hype. But this loot absolute fire. Right on cue, the system chimed in. The greedy Iron Link rune had officially activated. The lackey watched, completely paralyzed. My 1 million credits. It's totally cooked, the dude wailed. Zion flashed a wicked, devilish smirk. Bro, with a top-tier flavor like this, no wonder your weapon is going absolutely feral for it. The system interface flared up with epic golden text, Rune Link confirmed. Greedy Iron Rarity Ultimate High-Tier Grade. This absolute beast of a metal generates thermal energy by literally eating other iron types. It instantly corrodes any metal it touches. Then it absorbs their core right into its own matrix. Passive skill, hunts and consumes iron to synthesize mineral blood current durability. 78% skill. Activated blast ring. In a microsecond, Zion closed the gap and delivered a ruthless, gut-wrenching punch right to the dude's stomach. The lackey folded like a cheap lawn chair, instantly dropping to the pavement. Zion completely ignored him and turned to Leah. Anyway, senior, he asked smoothly, not even breaking a sweat. Any clutch classes in the enhancement department you'd recommend for me? Leah's cheeks flushed crimson in an instant. She cleared her throat and smiled. Ancient enhancement is pretty fire, she hinted. Plus, there's a ridiculously talented upperclassman named Leah Claudel taking it. You might have heard of her. Once the duo walked away, the defeated lackey curled up on the ground, clutching his bruised gut. This is total bullcrap, he groaned in pure agony. He couldn't stop raging. How could a total noob freshman have such god-tier reaction speed? But suddenly, a chilling voice cut through the air. Erica stepped out from the shadows. Pardon me. I'd like to take a look at that dagger for a second. The guy practically jumped out of his skin. Lady Erica, how long have you been standing there? He squeaked in pure terror. Sweating bullets, the simp respectfully handed over the battered weapon. Here it is, my lady. Erica inspected the damaged blade with razor-sharp eyes. Keep your mouth shut about this, she ordered coldly. There is zero reason for my brother to hear about your embarrassing loss. As for the family head, I will handle him myself later. The guy awkwardly scratched his head, utterly defeated. Understood, my lady. Erica's mind raced as she analyzed the weapon. Just as she suspected, the gear was used as a magical catalyst. It literally had a high-level anti-theft rune carved right into it. Her heart started pounding with sheer disbelief. Did Zion seriously just invent a custom parrying skill? By casually merging her magic with Professor Robert's spellcraft? Erica's mind was completely blown. The math wasn't mathing and she was shook to her core. Zion's forging talent isn't just S-class. It might actually break the freaking scale. I definitely need to patch his stats, she muttered. His magical compatibility needs to be upgraded to A rank immediately. Meanwhile, a transparent system window suddenly flashed before Zion Ding. A hidden resonance link has been established with target Erica in-out. Zion blinked, totally weirded out. Bro, what even is this glitch? What is she up to now? Did that stalker seriously just watch him clap her subordinate from the shadows? Zion sighed, looking at the looted blade fragments in his hand. Whatever, man, he shrugged. At least the drops were absolute fire. Easy loot is easy loot. Wait, I'm still short 10 blades to complete the set. He analyzed the rough edges of his new gear. It looks a little scuffed right now. But if I craft this together with the Dark Spirit thread, it's going to be a high-tier weapon, no cap. He let out a massive yawn, scratching the back of his neck. Anyway, whatever. Let's bench that idea for later. He dragged his feet down the hallway. I was actually super hyped for Ian Kim's legendary forging class. But instead, I've been stuck listening to an endless yapping session about basic theory I memorized years ago. Absolute snooze fest. Just then, Ian clapped his hands, his vibe turning dead serious. All right, that's enough boring tutorial stuff for one day, the professor announced. Time to lock in, students. We are moving to the main event. He snatched a basic item off his desk, brandishing it like a trophy. Listen up. Even if you flex with the exact same base metal, its final form will mutate completely based on how you tweak its mana grid. A glowing raw ore materialized right on cue. Your ability to hack this metal's physical properties. That is the ultimate game changer for any weapon's versatility, Ian declared. He slapped a bunch of chaotic-looking ores down on the table. Then with a massive flex of his mana, the professor instantly devolved them back into raw basic iron ingots. Bottom line, he boomed. If you want to survive as a blacksmith in this meta, you must literally sink your soul with the raw potential of your materials. Ian pointed at the desks. Today's daily quest. You're all gonna practice shapeshifting these standard iron blocks. He signaled his assistants to pass out the training ores, dropping the ultimate challenge on the class. Phase 1. Channel your mana flow to carve a flawless 3-centimeter groove dead center in your iron block. He narrowed his eyes, issuing a strict warning. These ingots are ultra-sensitive to any deformation. One trash move and you're gonna botch the whole thing, so don't throw. Zion smirked to himself, watching the demonstration. Okay, not bad. Looks like the old man isn't totally allergic to using mana for high-tier crafting after all. You have exactly 10 minutes to clear this trial, Ian barked. The timer starts now. Get to work. Panic instantly broke out. Students were sweating bullets over their busted iron chunks. Bro, why is my mana straight up rebelling right now? The whole room was filled with frustrated groans. This is totally scuffed. It won't reset back to its base form. But right in the middle of the chaos, two absolute tryhards stepped up. Zion raised his hand with zero effort. Quest cleared, Professor. Right next to him, Hunter shot Zion a massive side-eye. I'm done too, sir, he announced loudly. Ian beamed, totally hyped by their speed. Absolute W for both of you. You're cleared to unlock the next stage of the tutorial. He turned back to the board, raising the difficulty level. Watch closely. I'm about to drop a totally different blueprint for you to copy. Let's see if your specs are high enough to clone this. Hunter glared at Zion, overflowing with toxic confidence. Our speed and precision stats were exactly tied in the first round, he analyzed internally. But this time, I'm absolutely taking the MVP spot. While Ian kept yapping about the new schematic. Next up is this advanced lattice pattern. Hunter didn't even wait. He rushed his mana flow, fully believing his own hype. This is my moment to clutch, Hunter grinned like an absolute maniac seeing his chance to shine. I'm gonna craft an ultimate masterpiece. The whole class is about to witness my absolute peak. But right after he finished, Professor Inon Kim dropped a bomb. He told Han to revert the iron bar back to its original state. Han was totally caught off guard. Wait, say what now, Professor? When the guy actually tried it, he was completely cooked. Why the heck was it turning out like this? Han realized he took a massive L. The mana flow was totally wrecked beyond repair. Seeing the mess, Inon just shook his head. That iron bar couldn't handle the weird shape you just forced on it. In other words, your whole technique was trash from step one. Han was totally clueless. But I literally copied exactly what you showed us. Professor No Cap. The professor leaned in to drop some facts. The whole point I was making earlier is that you need to vibe with the metal's true potential. Inon went hard on the critique. If you can't restore the mana structure you just messed with, you aren't shaping the weapon. You're just making it super mid. That's a massive red flag for the gear's quality and power. You better hit the books and study this part again, or you are seriously cooked. Hearing that, Han kept his head down and mumbled, I will keep that in mind, Professor. Then, he shot a glance at Sehun Lee. Did that dude actually figure out the trick? Han tried to cope. Nah, no way. He probably just got lucky while zoning out. But right on cue, Sehun pulled off a crazy clutch. It actually worked. He flawlessly reverted the iron bar back to base form. The whole class was low-key shook. Wait, what the heck? Didn't the professor just say that was impossible? This had to be a glitch in the system. Even Inon was completely mind-blown. Sehun Lee, could you flex that transformation technique for me one more time? Sehun just sighed internally. Oops. I definitely made the professor overthink this whole thing. He played it off awkwardly. Honestly, this only worked because this is practice iron modded for students. If it were a standard block, I would have totally flopped. No cap. Watching it all unfold, it finally clicked in Inon's head. So that's the secret, he pulled it off by using the refined iron's high sensitivity. He was deep in thought. I can't believe even I missed such a basic detail. The absolute greatest of all blacksmiths, the legendary Sacred Flame leans. He created this theory back in his prime as an S-rank hero. And even after decades have passed since then, nobody has ever proven him wrong. His transformation formula is literally the Bible for every blacksmith in the world. The absolute truth of steel. Thinking about it, Inon hesitated. There is no way a kid like him found a loophole in the system, right? Should I really believe this guy is that OP? Sehun quickly turned away, thinking to himself, if he busts my secret again, that will be 2 times in a row. As the sun started to set, Inon finally spoke up. Class dismissed. You guys can head out. Sehun Lee, hang back for a sec, will you? Sehun stopped in his tracks. What's up, Professor? Inon suddenly pulled out an item. Consider this a welcome gift for joining the Academy. Since you carried so hard helping me move in, the system panel instantly popped up. Blood Flame, Jade Rare, rank high quality. An epic ore packed with the pure essence of crimson fire. It has a totally busted special ability to melt mixed ores straight into liquid. Sehun hesitated for a second. Wait, what is this? The professor explained. If you absorb the energy from this fire jade, your crimson flame gets a permanent buff. I went out of my way to get this for you. I heard you had the crazy skill to control blood flames. Hearing that, Sehun nodded with a massive grin. Thanks, Professor. This is literally a massive W for me. It is going to help me out so much. Inon suddenly dropped another question. One more thing. Are you planning to sign up for my side course? Sehun replied without missing a beat. Are you talking about the basic equipment research class? Inon was low-key shocked. Wait, you actually know about my class? Sehun casually nodded. Yeah, of course I do. But deep down he was doing the math. That class gets the biggest bag of funding from Babel. It is a total gold mine. Sehun was a bit conflicted. What is the smartest play here before I regressed back in time? The name Inon Kim was literally a nobody. So this professor probably got cooked in the original timeline. But right now, he is getting hyped up by everyone on campus. So Sehun smiled and gave his answer. Bet. I will totally join your class. Inon looked a bit worried. Are you sure you can handle it? You have already signed up for way too many side hustles. But Sehun just brushed it off like it was nothing. Even with this one, it is only my 4th class. Easy money. Inon did not argue, just shook his hand in awe. Well then, I am super pumped to see what you bring to the table, Sehun replied smoothly. Same here, Professor. Right at that moment, the system flashed a wild notification. Extracting connection link from target Inon Kim. The bond with creator. Sehun Lee is now at level 1. Link established with Inon Kim. Flame-bearing iron unlocked high rank, lower mid quality. A sick metal packed with fierce fiery energy. It acts exactly like wood, literally trapping roaring flames inside itself. Sehun sank deep into his thoughts. If I have the OP ability to extract metal from other people, that means I can literally forge and temper a human body. Usually when too many mana elements mix inside one host, they clash and totally self-destruct. That is insanely dangerous for a blacksmith who needs absolute precision. So sticking to your main elemental talent is like the unwritten rule of the trade. But for me, I am built completely different. I break all the rules. My internal mana used to suppress the heat is perfectly draining out. And once my body is empty, it becomes a magnet sucking up all the pure essence of the crimson flame. So my next major play as a blacksmith is to hardwire a specialized mana circuit, just for this crimson flame right inside my own body. A moment later, Sehun let out a heavy sigh of relief. He knew exactly what was up. This was the only way he could unlock self-forging. The system pinged aggressively. Your elemental mana has leveled up. Blood Flame upgraded from F rank to E+ rank, totally fire. A massive wave of alerts flooded his vision. You have acquired the S-rank skill Spiritual Body Forging Magic. The human body is the most raw ultimate material a blacksmith can polish. When the inner mana circuits are perfectly tempered, your physical stats go through the roof and your pure power becomes absolutely unstoppable. My base stats just got a massive buff thanks to this new skill. No cap, the system is finally blessing me. Sehun. Strength D15. Durability D100. Mana D19. Speed E87. He gritted his teeth. Magic aesthetic spirit forging. Really? He remembered struggling in his past life when Leah cooked him up. You literally have the mats right here. Are you seriously rage quitting before even trying to craft them? She smirked and asked, You're not an NPC, right? Are you actually just gonna take the L? Snapping back to reality, Sehun smiled, his resolve completely locked in. She was right. I need to min-max every single resource I can get my hands on. Leaving loot behind is mid-behavior. Whether I'm dealing with allies or straight-up ops, I'm not making the same mistakes twice. This time, I'm playing for keeps. Zero regrets. Inside a massive stone hall, the instructor's voice echoed. Today we are finalizing the gear you've been grinding on during the last few sessions. These finished drops aren't just for practice. They are getting shipped all over the academy and beyond. The red-haired dude declared, standing proudly with his hands on his hips. Honestly, what you craft today will carry your entire grade for the first semester, so sweat it out and give it 100%. Don't end up looking like clowns later. Understood. The whole class roared back. Yes, sir. Sehun stared at the iron rod in his hand, feeling totally cooked. Everything was a straight-up mess. His current low-level body couldn't keep up with his OP reflexes, throwing his entire crafting rhythm off. Gripping the forging hammer tight, he realized playtime was officially over. He couldn't afford to slack off anymore. It was time to sweat. Flames erupted around him, heat waves blasting through the workshop, steam hissed from a boiling vat. Sehun quietly inspected the long blade in his hand. Not gonna lie, this drop is actually pretty decent. But a frown crept onto his face. Checking the timer, he knew getting the rest of the gear crafted was gonna be an absolute nightmare. If I just pump out mid-tier trash, I might score some extra academy funding. He tossed the blade onto the grindstone. But nah, going all in to forge one absolute god-tier weapon is the ultimate flex. His hands flew across the grindstone with insane speed. He was totally locked in. The screech of grinding metal echoed in Sehun's mind, hitting him like the soundtrack of the apocalypse. His eyes tracked every spark. Every single time I hear this hype rhythm, I know I'm about to craft something straight out of a legend. He channeled all his aura into the metal. This wasn't just some basic stat boost. He was carving the very soul of a master swordsman directly into the blade. A blinding white flash exploded from the forge. The system interface popped up glowing with crazy new stats. The White Light Longsword was officially forged and ready to carry. A top-tier blacksmith shows their dominance through the absolute basics, squeezing every ounce of potential from trash-tier mats to craft an OP blade that is absolute peak artisan behavior. Ding, the system pinged. You have unlocked the hidden skill White Light Flow 2. Flawlessly polished swords spawned in the hologram, flashing their insane item descriptions. White Light Longsword, rarity rare, quality high. This cracked weapon boasts a blade as pure and icy as freshly fallen snow. Flawlessly sharpened and perfectly infused with mana, its durability and critical hit rate are completely busted. A straight-up masterpiece crafted by an elite-level blacksmith. Slashing damage gets a massive multiplier when fueled by aura. Sehun gripped the fresh loot and let out a huge breath. Honestly, for crafting with absolute bottom-tier iron, this roll isn't half bad. I'll take it. Staring at his creation, a spark of hype ignited in his chest. His god-tier skills from before he regressed were finally starting to reboot, even if it's just a fraction of his old power. Meanwhile, two knight students standing behind him clutched their trash-tier swords, literally crying. Bro, this feels so bad. Should we just drop out and touch grass? Fast forward to Saturday morning. The red-haired dude was chilling at a cafe, doom-scrolling on his phone, when a voice interrupted him. I'm actually shocked you want to spectate my enhancement strats. Sehun scanned the crowded street as they walked. Well, I'm pretty curious to see how you handle your base skills. Place is totally packed today, huh? Leah strolled beside him, keeping a low profile. Chill out, my workspace is way off the grid. No NPCs to bother us. The duo ventured toward a super quiet farm zone. Sehun raised an eyebrow. Bro, isn't this spawn point a little too far? Leah scoffed. Did you seriously think I'd let you peep my secret strats that easily? She dragged him toward a rundown hardware shop. We're here. She busted through the door, yelling at the top of her lungs. Granny. Her voice echoed through the shop. I've arrived. Inside, Helena was digging her pinky into her ear with a huge frown. I'm not deaf, kid. Stop screaming like a banshee. Sehun trailed behind, looking slightly triggered when the old woman pointed at him. Who is this random noob you dragged in? Your boyfriend Leah quickly stepped in front of him, shaking her head. You know absolutely not. Sehun just let out a low, amused chuckle at her reaction. He's literally the top ranker of the metallurgy department this year. Helena scoffed, clearly unimpressed. Babel Academy must be totally washed up if they're letting scrawny weaklings like him take the top spot. Helena slammed her hands on the table and stood up. The name is Helena. Sehun matched her energy, giving a slight nod. I'm Sehun, freshman in metallurgy. Suddenly, the old woman's aura spiked with pure annoyance. Enough yapping, let's get to the grind right now. My quest log is totally bottlenecked this week, all thanks to you. Useless freshman spamming requests. Leah rolled her eyes and let out a heavy sigh. Yeah, message received. Helena jabbed a thumb toward the back room. The forge is through there. Move it. Sehun scanned the crafted gear scattered around the room, his gamer instincts firing off. This old lady. Her hidden stats are way more OP than I expected. He trailed behind them, his mind analyzing every single detail. It makes zero sense for an elite-tier player like her to be running a junk shop out in the boonies. Leah walked ahead, inspecting the piled-up gear. Damn, the backlog here is actually insane. A crazy vibrant palette rested on the workbench. This right here is an enhancement palette, and these powders straight-up crushed mana stones. Sehun stood with his arms crossed, his eyes narrowing as he processed the setup. The meta standard is usually just 8 colors, but her color-mixing strat is wildly complex. He finally spoke up. Are you using this stuff to debug and restore corrupted enhancement blueprints? Helena grabbed a paintbrush with a smirk. Bullseye, kid. She held a metal claw in one hand, dipping her brush into the glowing paint with the other. It's the ultimate infinite money glitch. I get paid to restore gear, and I get to spam my enhancement skills without paying for the drops. The painted runes flared with intense magical light. What was once a basic trash-tier claw weapon was instantly transformed into a high-grade masterpiece under her brush. Sehun watched in total silence. I originally tagged along because her growth curve seemed totally hard stuck. A flash of his past life hit him. A rival looking down on him, sneering, "You're a washed-up has-been who chokes on every exam, and you couldn't even defend your top ranker title." Watching Helena locked into her zone with the brush and claw, the puzzle pieces finally clicked in his brain. Just as I suspected, seeing her gameplay firsthand, I know exactly why she's hit a wall. And I know exactly how to break her out of this slump. Lost in thought, he spun around and walked off. Honestly, locking in on a grind like that. That is a straight-up OP talent. Hands shoved deep in his pockets, Sehun stepped up to a wooden workstation. That is when a specific drop on the table caught his eye. This thing was designed to vibe with mana signatures to trigger some crazy special effects. He leaned in to check the stats. No cap, it had been a hot minute since he last flexed his engraving skills on white silver. My hands are literally itching for a craft session right now. Helena, lurking right behind him, caught his drift. Go ahead, give it a spin. She challenged, her arms crossed with a serious scowl. That is if you actually have the stats to pull it off. Take your pick from that loot pile over there. Sehun shot her a side-eye. Was this boomer seriously trying to give him a side quest just to boss him around? He turned his attention back to the bench. If she was letting him use a premium-tier whetstone like that, he absolutely had to test out its buffs. His eyes locked onto his target, and he gripped the handle tight. Helena kept her arms crossed, watching his every move. Are you seriously rolling with that base item? Sehun ran a finger along the edge, totally hyped. For sure. Just look at the perfectly balanced wear and tear and the zero warp axis. The previous owner definitely had maxed out sword proficiency. Standing at the workstation, he sized up the whetstone in his hands. This specific tier of crafting gear had its mana particles compressed to absolute perfection. Using a top-tier catalyst like this, it could easily push the blade's sharpness past its maximum limit. Moving with straight-up pro-gamer precision, he slid the weapon against the stone. Helena stood there absolutely shook. Is this kid actually just a level 1 freshman? Suddenly Leah cheered right behind her, nearly making the old master jump out of her skin. Mission accomplished. Leah suddenly blinked, noticing the audience. Oh, Granny. When did you spawn? And Helena did not even break eye contact with Sehun. I have no idea anymore. Leah stepped up right next to her. You totally tried to find a glitch in the newbie's technique, but he just gave you a straight-up masterclass. Am I right, or am I right? Helena aggressively shoved her back, her ego totally cooked. Zip it, you annoying brat. She glared at Sehun, who was just chilling there. Well, is your little crafting session over? He flashed a confident smirk. This is the highest tier I can hit with my current stats, but next time I will definitely pull off something way more fire. Helena slammed a blade down on the table. Whatever. Both of you log off and get out of here. Leah grabbed Sehun's arm, dragging him toward the exit. Do not mind her, she is just being salty for zero reason. Let us bounce. Back inside the shop, Helena stood with her hands on her hips, staring at Sehun's workspace. Suddenly, a guy in a slick suit banged on the door. Hey boss, are you in the middle of a crafting grind? Helena peeked out her face, a whole thunderstorm. Keep your voice down. The suit awkwardly scratched the back of his neck. Our quest backlog is completely insane right now. What is the status on that kitchen knife drop? He started losing his cool, the stress totally getting to him. Seriously, when are you going to drop that side quest at the restaurant? You are literally supposed to be an elite professor for the combat faction. She snapped back, fully triggered. Stop trashing my casual hobbies. The suit sighed, walking in and picking up the freshly upgraded blade. Ah, here's the item. But the second he touched it, a weird aura hit him. He frowned, inspecting the edge. Boss? Did you grind this while you were totally wasted again? She just stood there, arms crossed, staring at the floor. I did not do that. The guy blinked in confusion. Wait, then did one of your new support characters craft this? Their crafting stats must have leveled up like crazy to pull this off. Helena kept her eyes shut, letting out a heavy sigh. It was a freshman. The suit whipped around, completely glitching out. Say what now? Her eyes finally snapped open. Some random level 1 noob who just joined the server this year is the one who upgraded it. Flashbacks of Sehun's smug face played in her mind. Just who the heck was that OP kid? Meanwhile, Sehun stepped out into the streets, throwing a question at Leah. So that boomer running the hardware shop used to be a top-tier professor for the alchemy faction. Leah strolled beside him, nodding. Yeah, no cap. Word on the street is she logged off from teaching 5 years ago to open that shop in Aga. He shot her a suspicious look. Think there is some hidden lore behind her retirement. She shrugged, not really buying it. Beats me. It is probably just some mid-backstory, nothing crazy. The massive academy loomed in the distance as she explained. Over the last 5 years, a bunch of high-level professors just rage-quit the alchemy faction. Sehun raised an eyebrow. Is that how the meta is shifting? Sehun's brain was working in overdrive. Considering this faction was doomed to become the trash tier of Babel in the future timeline, this was definitely a main scenario quest he could not just skip. Leah crossed her arms, puffing out her chest. But never mind all that lore. What did you think of my enhancement skills back there? Pretty clutch, right? He snapped back to reality, glancing down at her. Your base stats are solid, no cap. Your fundamentals are actually decent. Her face immediately lit up with a massive ego boost. Oh, stop it, pulling off a flawless combo like that was nothing. But then he dropped the hammer. That being said, your entire crafting mindset is totally mid. The vibe instantly plummeted as Leah jumped right into his path, blocking him. Bro, what did you just say to me? Sehun pointed dead straight at her chest. You already theory crafted a way better build, but you were too much of a coward to actually execute it. She visibly glitched out, stuttering. How did you even read my stats like that? Leah instantly caught a debuff to her pride, hanging her head as she took the critical damage. If you are a noob, you can just grind and learn. But knowing the meta and refusing to use it, that is a massive skill issue. A crafter's imagination is literally their most OP weapon, and you are out here nerfing yourself on purpose. Her ego shattered into a million polygons. You think I am holding back just because I do not understand the mechanics? Sehun just let out a heavy sigh, digging through his inventory inside his jacket. Suddenly, he pulled a whole blade out of nowhere, leaving her completely stunned. I have another quest line to hit up soon, so I cannot spam this tutorial for long. Keep your eyes peeled and watch the magic happen. He started dropping some heavy lore using a stone and water metaphor. Imagine an NPC gives you a quest to put a rock underwater, crafting the rock and dropping it. That is just basic blacksmithing. The mental image started forming in the air. But hacking the system to project the image of that sinking stone onto the water itself, that is the true art of enhancement. That is exactly why enhancement is basically reality-bending magic. Suddenly, the sword ignited. Crimson energy flared up, wrapping the blade in absolute hellfire. The weapon hovered right in front of her face, radiating insane amounts of power. White light aura swirled around the steel, projecting an absolutely god-tier presence. Do not just slap a cheap skin on the surface. You have to inject that buff straight into the weapon's core code. He flexed the aura-infused dagger in his grip, watching the pure energy swirl around it. If a single buff layer is too weak, just stack that multiplier into multiple tiers. With a vicious flick of his wrist, Sehun slashed downward, then yeeted the blade backward with crazy force. It slammed straight into the concrete. Time literally seemed to freeze along the path of that insane power spike. He stared at the impact zone, his expression dead serious. I cannot say for sure if this breaks the standard crafting meta, but for someone with Leah's specs, it is totally viable. He watched as she cupped her chin, her brain visibly downloading the new info. High-tier prodigies like her always manage to unlock the skill tree even when they are hesitating. Suddenly Leah freaked out, pointing frantically at the weapon. Yo newbie, let me borrow that drop right now. I am literally begging you, hand it over. She literally hung off Sehun like he was some kind of playground swing. I swear I will make it totally flawless before I give it back. Please, please, pretty please. Sehun was dead-ass sweating bullets, totally forced to hand over the item. I do not mind, but if you are taking that, you might as well grab this too. She literally jumped for joy, looking like she just scored the ultimate prize. You are the absolute best, I literally love you to death. And just like that, she zoomed off, leaving our main character standing there looking dumbfounded. Sehun let out a huge sigh of relief as the system screen popped up. Initiating connection link with target Leah Claudel. Connection level with creator Lee Sehun has reached level 1. He just shook his head and muttered, "No cap, she is seriously such a kid." Standing right in the middle of the packed campus, Sehun scanned the massive crowd. Finally, he thought to himself, I actually get to meet one of the legendary 3 hounds today. He was hyping up the epic teenage battles between the Mad Hound and the demon god of destruction in his head. But then he noticed Erica trailing right behind him like a total creep. He finally snapped and asked, "Bro, what are you even doing?" She gave him this super creepy whisper, "I am just following you, duh." He hit her with the ultimate deadpan stare. "Okay, so if I tell you to get lost right now, are you actually gonna dip?" She stepped right up next to him, matching his pace. "Obviously I will, because I can totally just stalk you from a distance anyway." Sehun gave her major side-eye and just let out a heavy sigh. "Yeah, figured you would do some weirdo stuff like that." He stepped toward the entrance. "Whatever, let us just head inside." A frosty ice-like item popped up on the interface. Social contract link established with Erica Inout. Rank rare. Quality low to mid. It was a refined artificial mana ore. This bad boy was strictly meant for stabilizing chaotic mana whenever you mixed it with other sick minerals. Then another magic stone flashed onto the screen. Complex explosive block link established with Leah Claudel. Rank rare. Quality absolutely top tier. It was this super crazy jagged ore, totally glowing with a wild mix of colors. This thing was an insane amplifier. It was literally clutch for unlocking the maximum OP potential of any mixed crafting materials. Meanwhile, over at the massive stadium, Professor Jian popped up on the giant jumbotron looking totally adorable. A huge, massive welcome to all the fresh-faced Babel Academy noobs. Welcome to our legendary martial arts arena, sending my absolute best vibes to everyone tuning in for today's totally fire ranking match. She threw up a peace sign and winked at the camera. I am the youngest, absolute, most totally awesome professor in the entire martial arts department. And I will be your hype man and commentator for today's insane fights. The name is Jianfeng, do not you forget it. As massive spotlights swept across the arena, her voice just kept hyping everyone up. We are not gonna keep you guys waiting any longer. Let us introduce today's absolute beasts of the arena. The tall, totally intimidating silhouette of a woman stepped right into the blinding spotlight. First up, direct your eyes over here. The absolute undisputed valedictorian of the 4th year class from the Argus sector. She is also the future boss of the insanely overpowered Myers family, basically a factory for pumping out S-class heroes. The girl casually flipped her perfectly glowing golden hair over her shoulder. A literal, flawless superhuman. She has been totally shattering records left and right, and holding down the #1 spot at this arena for 3 straight years. No cap, she is currently an active straight-up A-rank hero, and our reigning defending champion. Her gorgeous face was finally revealed on the big screen. She is the absolute sword saint who totally conquered the absolute peak of the area Mere Hero Tower. Give it up for Area Myers. The crowd went absolutely feral, screaming their lungs out. Up in the nosebleeds, Sehun and Erika just stood there, arms crossed, totally judging the whole scene. Step on me, Queen Arya. You are literally glowing. The fanboys were straight up losing their minds. Jian's voice cut through the hype. And now the very first absolute madman brave enough to challenge our champion today. A brutal spotlight slammed down onto a dude rocking a massive weapon strapped to his back. The living, breathing cultural heritage of Korea. The true heir to the insanely OP blazing wheel ruin spear technique. He is the third-year spear department valedictorian, and the totally cracked favorite to snatch a top 10 rank. Sehun glared down at the arena, a total smirk playing on his lips. Well, he thought. We finally crossed paths, bro. The dude just stood there, letting his terrifying aura explode outward. It was the legendary Mad Hound. Jian screamed his name into the mic. Make some noise for Seongha Yom. He whipped out a 6-strike, literal fire trailing from his weapon, stopping the blade just inches from the concrete. Across the ring, Arya casually flexed her insane sword mastery. She unleashed a shockwave so fierce, it forced Seongha to completely leap backward, just to avoid getting cooked. He gritted his teeth, visibly struggling to hold his ground, his hands totally white-knuckling his weapon. Arya's eyes flashed with this absolutely terrifying boss-level glare. Suddenly, massive rings of blazing fire roared to life around her, looking ready to totally barbecue Seongha on the spot. Watching from above, Sehun totally analyzed the play. Honestly, he thought, even considering he is still a rookie, his stats are totally mid. He is just not hitting the benchmark yet. Is he seriously not getting the OP gear and buffs he deserves as the heir to the blazing wheel? Down in the arena, Seongha shifted into a battle stance, totally stressing internally. Man, something about this matchup feels super sketchy. The biggest totally busted thing holding him back was the absolute trash tier gear he was using. Realizing it was useless, he literally yeeted it across the floor and prepared to full send a wild charge. But before he could even blink, a razor-sharp blade slid right up against his throat. Seongha totally froze, sweating bullets as he stared cross-eyed at the lethal steel. His shoulders slumped in defeat. Damn, I am totally cooked. I surrender. Arya casually lowered her weapon with a bright, bubbly smile. Good game, bro. You totally tried your best. The match was officially called, and your absolute undisputed winner is none other than Arya Myers. They both stood in the center of the massive ring as Jian grabbed her mic to keep the hype train rolling. Alright, fam. Now we are gonna jump straight into the post-match interview with both of our insane fighters. Well, that was the plan anyway, but it looks like student Seongha Yum just ghosted us for personal reasons. She covered her mouth, totally giggling. Honestly, having to directly face off against a rank 9 right out the gate would totally make me want to rage quit and dip too. Seongha slinked away into the total shadows, completely ignored, as all the flashing cameras obsessed over Arya. Jian winked at the crowd. So how about I totally save the stream and fill this dead air with an exclusive Q&A session with yours truly? The crowd completely lost their minds, screaming, "We are totally down for that, queen." Up in the stands, Sehun narrowed his eyes, tracking the defeated fighter. Yikes, he thought. That dude is literally big mad right now. Suddenly Sehun just stood up to leave, making Erika snap her head toward him in total confusion. Bro, are you seriously gonna waste your ticket and just ditch before the event is even over? He casually shoved his hands into his pockets. Yeah, pretty much. That whole try-hard fighting style is totally mid to me anyway. As he started walking away, he smirked and added, "Plus, look down there. She is totally standing around acting super thirsty for a real fight." Erika panicked internally. Thank God he did not actually come here to pick a fight with my brother, she thought, totally relieved. But why the heck is he giving off such angry villain vibes right now? Suddenly, a totally unexpected voice echoed right next to her. An actually interesting freshman, Arya had literally just teleported up there like an absolute ninja. Her bright orange eyes were glowing with hardcore anticipation. No cap, I think I just found my next ultimate rival. Meanwhile, Seongha was out in a totally empty park near the arena, hardcore meditating like an absolute monk. Sehun silently rolled up on him, analyzing the situation. Well, looks like the infamous Seongha Yom is still alive and kicking. Sehun replayed the arena footage in his mind, remembering those crazy flashy blast attacks the guy was throwing around. Sure, he literally has the temper of a rabid dog, Sehun thought. But this guy was absolutely clutch for the Suicide Squad in the past. He was literally the last total madman standing who sacrificed his own life to utterly nuke the demon god of the apocalypse. Looming right behind him, Sehun kept plotting. Since he has not completely turned to the dark side yet, swiping his connection stone this time should be totally easy. Suddenly, Seongha scowled, keeping his head down. You were totally spying on my trash match back there, were not you? Sehun did not even flinch, keeping his hands stuffed in his pockets. No cap, I saw the whole embarrassing thing. Seongha slowly peeked over his shoulder, his eyes totally sharp. The fact that you tracked me all the way out here proves your stealth stats are absolutely cracked, bro. Seongha Yom shot him a toxic glare. You again? Why is the so-called valedictorian of the Bosapa department crashing my spot? No cap. The tension was thick. Sehun stood his ground, wondering why this guy was acting so pressed. Look, I just came here hoping we could have a little chat, he said, keeping it completely chill. Seongha Yom just scoffed and looked away. Get out of my face before you get cooked. But Sehun took a slow step forward. This is actually a massive buff for you, senior. You clearly do not get the memo, so I will say this exactly once. Seongha Yom dropped his voice to a deadpan chill. I absolutely despise mid-tier trash, especially the deadweights who cannot even carry their own weight for their family. His eyes narrowed. And I especially hate newbies who think their basic little tricks put them on my level. So, whatever nonsense you wanted to pitch, cancel it and walk away. Then he dropped the ultimate disrespect. You low-level blacksmith. The words triggered a flashback of Seongha Yom's past cruelty. Go back to your little workshop and forge some basic gear. Know your stats and stay in your lane. Honestly, Sehun did not even care. Compared to his future reputation as the mad dog, this version of him was actually being low-key polite. Mana began to swirl in Sehun's hand. He sighed inwardly. With an aggro attitude like that, talking this out is definitely not the play. Seongha Yom glared over his shoulder. Looks like you really want to catch hands today. As he closed the distance, Sehun stared right back. Well, let me drop a little truth bomb on you too. What came next left the senior completely frozen. The legendary legacy of the Firewheel Blazing Spear is going to get totally wiped out by your own hands. That was the breaking point. Seongha Yom dashed forward like a literal missile. He threw a heavily charged punch straight at Sehun, but an invisible force field instantly blocked the strike. Ding, a system prompt flashed just as the senior was blasted backward. The Mark of Greed has been successfully activated. Seongha Yom scowled in pure shock. Did this kid really just perfectly parry my mana-buffed attack? Blazing embers began to spiral around Seongha Yom's body. His respect for the freshman leveled up. I guess he is not the department's top ranker for nothing. Maybe this guy actually has the stats to speak to me after all. His aura flared up, getting insanely intense, but the lingering trajectory of the flame mana was still active. This is the true overpowered magic of the Firewheel Blazing Spear. I am ending this right here, right now. The two of them clashed head-on in an epic rush. Sehun materialized a wild burst of flames, launching the inferno straight at Seongha Yom. Thick smoke swallowed the area, but Sehun casually stepped out of the haze, looking completely unfazed. Standing in the distance, Seongha Yom was absolutely shook. What the actual heck? Why are the flames that only respond to my unique mana chilling right in the palm of his hand? A terrifying realization hit him. No shot did he literally deconstruct and hijack my own skill. Suddenly, a searing fireball zoomed right past his neck. Sehun locked eyes with him, thinking, this dude is completely unhinged. Seongha Yom dropped into a combat stance, radiating a wild purple aura. He was legit seconds away from going full psycho and losing all control. It reminded Sehun of that infamous pink-haired maniac carrying a massive weapon. That legendary disaster back at the Calamity Gate. Yeah, it was 100% caused by this exact same toxic temper. A devastating punch was already locked and loaded. It homed in with terrifying aim while Sehun realized his Mark of Greed buff was ticking down to 0. His stamina bar was practically flashing red. Right as the fist was about to cave, Sehun's face in the Mark of Greed timer officially ran out. His body was totally drained and ready to give out. The pressure felt like gravity itself had just shattered. But at the absolute last microsecond, someone solidly caught Seongha Yom's fist. The senior's eyes went wide with shock. It was none other than Jack. He had desperately tanked the hit, totally startling the senior. Jack Myers, Seongha Yom questioned, stepping back. Are you actually friends with this Bosipa department valedictorian? Jack stuttered nervously. Yeah, we are kind of bros. Hearing that, Seongha Yom ripped his hand away. His crazy aura finally cooled off as he turned around. Get out of my sight before I change my mind. Jack frantically bowed and yelled, loud and clear, sir. Then he turned to Sehun, totally sweating bullets. Yo, Sehun, we need to dip like right now. You better memorize what I said, Seongha Yom warned. And stop spouting that delusional nonsense. Now bounce. Left standing alone in the alley, Seongha Yom finally let out a heavy breath. I totally lost my cool and almost went for a kill shot, he muttered to himself. A few more inches and I would have dragged the Blazing Spear's honor through the mud and completely ruined my master's reputation. He stared at the ground, deep in regret. Meanwhile, down the street, Jack was aggressively speedwalking ahead of Sehun. Bro, what was actually going through your head? Why would you pull aggro on that scary senior? If I had not clutched up and blocked that, you would literally be in the respawn screen right now. Sehun just smirked and let out a relaxed sigh. Me getting taken out that easily? Not a chance, man. Say what now? Jack yelled, still stressing out. Suddenly, a translucent blue window popped up in front of Sehun's eyes. Ding, target link with Seong-a-yom has been successfully established. A victorious grin crossed Sehun's face. Relax, I was just feeding him some fake threats to get a reaction, Sehun said aloud. But his mind was already calculating the next big brain move. Phase 2, time to extract the Link Stone. He recalled Seong-ha-yom's hardcore fighting style from the previous timeline. The dude he remembered was an absolute menace, the literal mad dog Seong-ha-yom. If he stays this soft and restrained right now, the Link Stone buff might actually get nerfed. I have got to min-max a strategy to farm more Link levels with him. He then side-eyed Jack with a scheming look. Still having this meat shield around is definitely going to be super clutch. By the way, did your hand take any damage from blocking that? Sehun asked. Jack just flashed a goofy grin and pointed to a small scratch on his palm. No sweat. My hands have basically maxed out defense stats. Sehun side-eyed him, trying not to laugh. Maxed out defense. Yeah, right. Jack quickly pivoted the conversation, waving his hands defensively. Okay, but more importantly, let us talk about the arena. What exactly were you saying about my older sister back at the arena? Sehun blinked, acting totally clueless. Oh, you mean Arya Myers? Yeah, her... Jack nodded. Sehun just shrugged nonchalantly. It was no big deal, honestly. I just said she seemed a little bit stuck up. Jack grabbed his head in sheer panic. Bro, what? No wonder she was blowing up my phone asking all about you. Jack shrieked. Sehun smirked mentally, picturing Arya. She has definitely got you on her radar now, dude, Jack warned. Sehun kept his expression totally deadpan, recalling the fierce female rancor. Seriously, man, my sister is totally locking on to you. Somewhere else, the legendary Arya Myers was currently smiling a very dangerous smile. Sehun sighed, feeling a bit impressed. She actually managed to eavesdrop on that in the middle of a massive crowd. Her perception stats must be insanely high. Jack gave him a pleading look. Next time, please just use your inside voice. My sister is literally an A-rank hero, bro. Sehun just shoved his hands in his pockets, totally unfazed. Hey, if a high-tier ranker wants to fanboy over me, I am totally down for the free clout. As he watched Jack losing his mind and tearing at his own hair, the gears in Sehun's head started turning. Seong-ha-yom's ultimate main quest right now is definitely taking down Arya. If I can pull aggro from his biggest rival, my own reputation will passively skyrocket. Jack just stared at him with a soul-crushed expression and sighed. Bro, stop treating this like a game you're actually going to get cooked. Bro, you just do not get it. My sister is literally... Before he could even finish spilling the tea, Sehun totally interrupted with a savage reality check. She is a petty, scheming manipulator, am I right? The dude literally jumped out of his skin, frantically scanning the area like a paranoid wreck. Bruh, maybe do not use such insanely harsh words out loud. Suddenly the guy's expression turned dead serious. Sehun just stood there completely silent as the burning question dropped. Seriously though, why do you have such massive beef with my sister? Enter the absolute legend. The blonde girl in crazy OP armor wielding a tyrannical black blade. The Sword Saint Arya Myers. She stood there with pure main character energy, staring down a horde of absolute nightmares. Once upon a time, that blade was completely mid and lifeless. But under the pitch-black moon, Arya spread her magnificent wings and raised that godly weapon to the heavens. Then one random day, the legendary Sword Saint literally ghosted everyone, vanished without a single trace. The one who stepped out of the shadows had straight up hijacked a demon god's sacred relic, turning it into her own personal cheat weapon, the demon god of light destruction. Sehun just smirked from the shadows, totally unbothered. Just looking at her screams toxic drama, he muttered. Then he casually strolled off, tossing a lazy wave over his shoulder. I am out of here. The poor guy was left standing there completely cooked and brain empty. Like what in the world just happened? Suddenly his phone buzzed, snapping him out of his absolute confusion. The screen lit up with a text from his big sister, the Arya Myers herself. Looks like you just made a super fascinating new friend, the message read. You better spill all the tea to me later. Reading that text literally gave him a heart attack. Was she seriously hinting that he was about to become their permanent, totally unwilling messenger boy? His eyes locked onto the screen as his face went ghost white. Arya dropped a totally sinister follow-up text. Your petty and scheming manipulator of a sister is asking you for a tiny little favor. He just stood freezing on the street corner staring at his phone like his soul had left his body. "I am so totally cooked," he cursed. Cut to the next morning at Babel Academy. Sehun was chilling in the lecture hall, rubbing his shoulder with a sharp wince. "Did I go a little too hard clashing with Seong-ha-yeom yesterday?" he thought to himself, feeling the heavy aftermath of that insane brawl. Han, sitting right in front of him, muttered under his breath, "The meetup schedule is dropping soon." Suddenly, Professor Rizdova zoomed into the room on his tiny motorized cart, slamming his cane and barking, "Quiet down, all of you." He rolled right to the front, raising his cane like an absolute boss, and launched straight into his intro. "The name is Rizdova. I will be running your major specific classes for the next 2 weeks. We are diving deep into attribute refinement." Every single student in that room took one look at the guy, and their faces instantly lost all color. They all shared the exact same terrifying thought. This was the legendary professor known for being completely unhinged. But Rizdova just kept his cool and spoke with deadly seriousness. "Before we kick things off, listen up. You better take this seriously and submit your assignments to me by next Thursday. Let us start the roll call. First up, David." Hearing his name drop out of nowhere, David practically jumped out of his seat. "Present, sir." He totally panicked. The tiny Professor Rizdova just chilled on his cart, casually flipping through his grading sheet. "And the final name on the roster is Lee Sehun." Hearing his cue, Sehun immediately stood up. Han threw a sneaky side-eye from the front row. Is anyone else dying to know how much funding this dude is going to bag? The guy sitting next to him was totally sweating bullets. "No cap, I bet his budget is going to be at least 3 times bigger than mine." Suddenly, Ristova's voice boomed across the room. "As for student Sehun's budget, that number is literally off the table for now. It is officially pending." The whole room was shook. "Wait, what did you just say?" Sehun just stood there, his messy bangs totally hiding his eyes, purposely styled like that because haters kept calling his old look super tragic and mid. Ristova was entirely unfazed, calmly stroking his wild white beard. "The level of perfection in your submitted artifact is just absolutely unreal. The contrast is staggering. It blew our expectations so far out of the water that the Academy decided to toss it straight into the second-year public auction this Wednesday." The professor kept dropping mind-blowing facts. "So your official budget will be locked in based on the final winning bid. Just sit tight and be patient for a little longer." Sehun stood totally frozen, frowning hard as his brain went into overdrive. Is this some kind of toxic trap set up by Vice Principal Michael? Is that snake seriously interfering to single me out? His mind was spinning with crazy conspiracy theories. But then again, if some shady behind-the-scenes drama was going down Professor Kim and on, Kim definitely would have stepped in and blocked it by now. Shaking off the paranoia, he finally gave the professor a nod. "Loud and clear, sir. I get it." Ristova dropped the scary teacher act and enthusiastically waved them into the next phase of the lecture. Today's absolutely massive topic is all about surplus magic power, and we actually have a top-tier student who volunteered to carry this intense practical demonstration. Come on in. The door swung open, and it was none other than Seong-ha-yeom. He casually strolled into the room right as Ristova hyped him up to the crowd. "Meet my temporary teaching assistant, Seong-ha-yeom, a third-year spear arts major straight out of Agathea." A student sitting next to Sehun literally gasped out loud. "Why is such an insanely famous senior flexing in our class?" The whole room was buzzing, catching feelings, and acting totally hyped like they just spotted a massive celebrity. Seong-ha-yeom took his spot right beside the professor, and Rizdova instantly pivoted back to dropping knowledge. "Enough hyping up the guest star. Let us nail down the absolute basics before we dive into the hardcore practical stuff." Glowing spherical artifacts started radiating raw mana, the exact kind used in crafting high-tier weapons. The physical form of surplus magic is strictly divided into 2 main categories. Type 1 is your basic battery-style charging form. Type 2 is the independent form, which literally generates its own mana or aggressively leeches it straight from the surrounding air. Both have their pros and cons, but let me tell you, the independent type is insanely difficult to pull off. Ristova's tone turned dead serious as he dropped the heavy theory. Why? Because there is zero standard blueprint for forging a mana core. The whole process totally morphs based on your raw materials, your personal crafting technique, and the sheer aura of the creator. He shot a look at Seong-ha-yeom, who was standing by like an absolute boss. "That is exactly why all you newbies are starting with the basic charging type. Assistant, take the stage." Seong-ha-yeom's hand suddenly clenched tight, his muscles flexing as an intense crimson aura erupted from his skin. Swirling trails of blazing red mana instantly materialized, lighting up the entire lecture hall. Fire attribute energy is notoriously explosive, making it a total nightmare to convert into usable surplus magic. But Seong-ha-yeom effortlessly commanded 2 blazing streams of red mana, forcing them to crash together into a perfect glowing arc. However, if you can actually tame that volatile nature, it unlocks absolutely clutch storage capacity. Ristova kept the lecture flowing perfectly, matching the insane simulation Seong Ha-yeom was putting on. The prime example is the exact technique my assistant is flexing right now. Behold, the blazing wheel of the fire spear. Han watched the whole thing in pure shock, totally paralyzed. No cap, how is he controlling fire mana on such an OP level? The classmate sitting next to him was equally mind-blown. Bro, just keeping a basic refinement furnace from blowing up is literally way too much for me to handle. Up on the podium, Ristova dramatically held up a high-tech magical device. Since we are incredibly lucky to have such a clutch assistant today, you guys better not waste this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Drop your assignments by next Thursday. The whiteboard has all his crazy demands. The theme fire attribute excess magic charging, rocking that flaming wheel aesthetic. He practically drilled it into our heads. You can freestyle whatever you want as long as you stick to the vibe. No cap. Ristova looked totally hyped, spinning his baton like crazy on his little scooter. Now let us speed run straight to the refinement room. Oh, and do not forget to swap your gear. Once the professor dipped, only Seong Ha-yeom was left standing there. The other students suddenly jumped up. This was their shot. Hunter and his squad had one thought. A golden opportunity to flex and chat with the senior Seong Ha-yeom. He hyped himself up, stepping forward to shoot his shot. Yo, what is up, senior? He tried to look all proper, about to drop his name. I am Hunter. But before he could finish, Seong Ha-yeom's aura turned absolutely toxic. Get the heck out of my face. Hunter did not dare to stick around and instantly dipped. Yikes. The whole classroom's vibe flatlined. Seong Ha-yeom just stood there frozen with his eyes shut and looking ice cold. Suddenly those razor-sharp eyes snapped open, locking onto a target. Just as Lee Sehun was casually strolling out of the room, he got called out. Hey Lee Sehun, hold up. He got hit with a heavy question. Just what exactly do you know about me? The muscular dude was radiating a sick red swirling magic aura. Word on the street is the mastery of the blazing wheel of ruin is totally judged by the number of fire wheels. Fact. Lee Sehun, the current boss of the Flame faction and an A-rank hero, has maxed out at 8 wheels. Lee Sehun slowed his roll toward the door, ready to drop some facts. Since those 3 wheels you just spawned were light work, if you actually did it right, you could easily maintain 6 at once. Seong Ha-yeom rushed after him, trying to catch up. Hold up. What is your point? Lee Sehun dropped a bomb that made him freeze on the spot. You have totally touched the 7th wheel before, right? Lee Sehun casually shoved his hands in his pockets, calling him out. But one day, you are gonna lose your grip on it. Seong Ha-yeom stood there, shaking with pure rage as he watched him walk away. How did this kid figure it out? I have not even reported this to my master yet. His face turned completely stone cold, and his words dropped below freezing. Look, man. I have got some insane talent for controlling fire. But when I watched you flexing your flames, something felt incredibly off. You could not even detonate the leftover magic properly. Honestly, you were just letting it go wild like a total noob. Seong Ha-yeom. He closed the gap, instantly demanding answers. Do you know what is causing it? He looked absolutely shook, his eyes wide with panic. I have got a few solid theories. But Lee Sehun's next words absolutely shattered his hopes. But I just do not see why I should tell you. Seong Ha-yeom gasped, totally stunned. Say what? Standing right behind him, he clenched his fists tight. Name your price. Lee Sehun did not hesitate, just holding up a single finger. Rule number 1. You are going to pay a massive premium for all my advice and carrying you. Then a second finger went up. Rule number 2. When things get super rough, you have to consult me first. No exceptions. Lee Sehun dropped his terms and kept walking. Let me know your choice before we step foot in the refinement room. Seong Ha-yeom did not even blink or overthink it. I am in. His voice was dead serious as he dropped his own condition. Only if you can actually prove it. Fast forward to the afternoon down at the forge. The zone was packed with NPCs in matching uniforms grinding away. Lee Sehun was laser-focused, tossing materials straight into the blazing furnace. Is bro really crafting without a single blueprint? Do not tell me he is skipping the material. Check fire and dark ores mixed at a crazy 7-to-3 ratio. 2 absolute haters crept up behind his hard-working back, whispering and throwing shade. If he just forces it all, the elemental magic will vanish into thin air. Why is the top student acting so cooked? But Lee Sehun ignored them, calculating perfectly. The heat spiked to the max, right until the elemental magic started leaking out. Lee Sehun swiftly ripped off his gloves. Bro literally shoved his bare hands straight into the flames. He controlled the magic fire to lock down the attributes. That is the legendary heat replacement technique. Ristova was sweating bullets, watching from the sidelines. He is pulling off a heat swap right from the start. So that is why Ian greenlit his public auction. A confident smirk crept onto the corner of Lee Sehun's mouth. To the normies, it just looked like a basic mid-tier heat swap. But for Seong Ha-yeom, he was witnessing an absolute masterpiece. He watched in stunned, wide-eyed silence. Pay close attention. His black boots slammed down on the pedal. A massive burst of red fire magic mixed with a dope black aura exploded. The escaping fire magic was forced right back inside. Meanwhile, the deep dark magic was pulled straight to the surface. By doing this, he perfectly balanced two opposing forces, creating an ultimate endless loop. Seong stood there with his arms crossed. He was watching closely but looked kind of totally underwhelmed. Is that seriously it? Lee Sehun's eyes spun like literal fire wheels. My second magic attribute. Totally banned because they thought it nerfed the blazing wheel of ruin. Seong still looked absolutely clueless, scratching his head in confusion. If I use it like this, I drop straight down to the fifth wheel. Lee Sehun flinched hard hearing that. Wait, say what? Seong instantly spawned 5 spinning wheels right in front of him to prove his point. I successfully mastered the black fire wheel. But my juice is too low to maintain 6. Lee Sehun had to admit 5 black fire wheels were still way more OP than 7 regular ones. Seong looked totally stressed out, squeezing his eyes shut before turning away. The Flame faction regularly sends instructors to test the active heirs out in the field. A massive ring of dark magic formed, forcing the fire to pass through. If anyone drops below the 6th wheel level, they get completely stripped of their heir status. Lee Sehun casually hit him with the most basic fix. Then just use your old method for this one test. Seong sighed, spawning a mini wheel in his palm. That is a total no-go too. Dark magic violently erupted from behind the fire wheel. My dark attribute magic is completely out of my control now. I am cooked. Lee Sehun was getting a major headache too, rubbing his temples. When exactly is this instructor showing up? Seong hit him with the ultimate clutch or kick news. Tomorrow. Lee Sehun stroked his chin, his eyes narrowing as he gazed off in deep thought. He knew losing the heir position meant getting instantly expelled, a brutal system that could cook a student in just one day. Out of nowhere, Lee Sehun slammed his hand onto Sam's shoulder. Yo, bro. Lee Sehun's eyes lit up with wild energy, dropping a heavy question right on the spot. If your spot as the heir is locked in, are you actually going to pull your weight? Sam did not even flinch. He answered with dead serious confidence, bet on it. Say less. A wicked smirk crossed Lee Sehun's face as he whipped out a glowing crimson darkstone. System alert linking Seong a top-tier high-grade red resonance darkstone secured. This rock was absolute fire. It was a crazy rare ore where flame and shadow mana vibed perfectly together. Their wavelengths would totally buff his inner stats. First things first. We need to swap out that mid-weapon of yours. Sam led the way to a VIP zone. We are talking about the exclusive private training facility of Aegis Academy. This place was ridiculously high-spec. Only the top 100 elite fighters or the top 30 academic sweats had the clearance to flex here. Lee Sehun walked in and totally rolled his eyes. Bro is such a try-hard no-cap. He tapped the glowing blue hologram with one finger. We can customize the user interface in here, right? Let me just tweak these settings real quick. The digital landscape shifted right before their eyes. Lee Sehun pointed at the background and completely roasted him. The Flame Blossom Sect, bro. Are you seriously that homesick? Sam played it completely cool. My master sent the file, so I just equip it sometimes. It is whatever. Lee Sehun just grinned, pulling out that epic darkstone, totally hyped to start cooking. Alright, let us craft some OP training gear. With a smooth flick of his thumb, the darkstone snapped perfectly in half. System check. High-grade red resonance. Darkstone linked. Quality absolute god tier. A legendary mineral fusion, fire and shadow magic perfectly balanced in one space. The dual attribute wavelengths would totally sync up and multiply his raw mana output. Flash, a long, razor-sharp weapon materialized. Crafting complete, Sam grabbed the twin spears, looking low-key stressed. Wielding one spear was already tough enough, but dual wielding. That was a whole different beast. Lee Sehun just shrugged, completely unbothered. This build is way more clutch for controlling dual elemental mana. He stood across from Sam, his vibe instantly turning hardcore as he pointed out the strat. Alright, listen up. Spam a flame wheel with your left hand and blast your shadow mana with the right. Sam blinked, totally caught off guard by that wild combo. Wait, just blast it. Just like that. Exactly, like that. Lee Sehun confirmed. Sam closed his eyes, centering his aura. When they snapped open, his gaze was deadly. He twirled the twin spears in a flawless blazing arc. But Sam abruptly froze in his tracks. Chaotic mana was leaking violently from the shaft. He lifted the spear, staring at the glitching energy in absolute confusion. Bro, what even was that? Lee Sehun coolly pointed at the messy aura. Skill issue. You accidentally let your shadow mana bleed over into your left hand. Sam could feel the wild energy vibrating through the metal. Mixing different mana types is standard physics, but for him, the synergy was absolute trash. The two elements were literally canceling each other out. That is exactly what happens when you spend your whole life hard-nerfing your own shadow powers. Lee Sehun snapped a sleek metallic band onto Sam's wrist. If you can lock in and balance both mana types, you will speedrun to the 6th wheel stage in no time. Keep this debuff ring equipped while you grind. Sam checked out the heavy band and cracked a grin. Not gonna lie, your loot is pretty top tier. With zero hesitation, he jumped straight back into the grind, spamming massive combos and mastering every stance. 3 hours of hardcore training flew by. Lee Sehun chilled on the sidelines, smirking as he watched the stats go up. Bro's learning curve is absolutely insane. Was it because this meta was literally invented by his own overpowered future self? Lee Sehun analyzed every micro-movement and mana flare. Let us see just how cracked your past version actually is. His breathing, his muscle memory, the flawless shifts in gravity. The mana wavelength surged through his veins, exploding in pure critical hits at the tip of the spear. Catching Lee Sehun's intense stare, Sam paused. Bro, what are you staring at? Lee Sehun propped his chin on his hands, putting on an overly innocent act. What does it look like I am just scraping some combat data? Sam was taking a breather, wiping sweat from his cheek when he suddenly froze. I need your stats to forge your actual main weapon, Lee Sehun added. Lee Sehun slouched in his chair, acting totally chill. Honestly, I am just building it for a class project, so do not hype it up too much. Sam rolled his eyes and looked away. Like anyone would actually trust a weapon crafted by a first-year noob. Lee Sehun could not stay quiet for long. His eyes darted to the side as Sam viciously slammed both spears down from a massive jump. Is there some lore reason you are sweating so hard to stay the air? Sam did not even turn around. He just dropped a heavy one-liner response. My master wants me to run the sect. He stood perfectly still, letting the twin blades rest at his sides. His voice dropped to an icy chill. As his disciple, I am just completing the quest he gave me. Nothing more. The absolute legend who adopted a nobody orphan named Shongha Yom, none other than the S-rank hero himself. The original founder of the Flame Blossom sect. The faded framed photo on the wall immortalized his legendary face and name, Ian. Back in the day, that OP master would sit beside young Sam, ruffling his hair and teaching him the ways of the world. Even though Ian got massively nerfed and had to retire due to a critical injury, his presence as a master and father figure still had an absolute chokehold on Sam's life. Lee Sehun buried his face in his hands. His mind flashed back to the day the trio formed their party. Let us try not to kill each other. Yeah. System alert bonding. Level 3. Unlocked. Yeah, sure. Sam shot him a side-eye, cutting straight to the chase. Why are you actually boosting my account? His brows locked into a hard frown, his eyes narrowing as he tried to read Lee Sehun's game plan. The vision shifted to an apocalyptic wasteland. The 6 great demon realms. From the rotting forests to the ruined cities, it was a total dead zone, swallowed by the chaos. Swamp completely infested with nightmare-tier mob beasts. Lee Sehun lounged sideways in his chair, swinging his legs. He looked Sam dead in the eye. I am planning to raid every single one of those demon realms, but to pull off a raid that crazy, I need an elite squad to tank for me, and I need epic drop materials to craft their god-tier gear. Without missing a beat, Lee Sehun flashed an insanely cocky OK hand sign. If you lock in as the boss of the Flame Blossom sect, your combat stats and your bank account are going to be massively buffed, right? Seeing that greedy flex, Sam was literally left speechless. Bro is all about the business, huh? Lee Sehun's playful vibe vanished as he locked in. Obviously. We literally just partied up. Did you really think I was carrying you out of charity? Wait, what? Sam rested the heavy spear against his shoulder. So you are saying this. Power leveling is not free. You want a massive return on your investment. Sam's aura flared as he aimed his spear directly at Lee Sehun's throat. His eyes were lethal. Carry me to the Flame Blossom sect leader throne. If you do that, I will be your vanguard when you raid those 6 great demon realms. A massive wave of déjà vu hit Lee Sehun out of nowhere. He remembered his future self hearing those exact same words, craft me a legendary weapon and I will solo those demon gods for you. A completely unhinged smirk crept across Lee Sehun's face. Between his fingers, he instantly summoned another pristine, crackling darkstone. You sure you ain't gonna regret this? Dark mana surged wildly from the black stone resting in his palms. Whether you like it or not, I'm putting you on that clan leader's throne, no cap. System alert, Blackstone Crimson Resonance link activated. Down in Flavium's first-floor training hall, Hunun pulled up looking dead serious, trailing his squad of lackeys. It's been a minute, young master. The man smirked. I am Gang Hunun, the 7-ring instructor of the Flame Blossom sect. Seong Ayom side-eyed the 3 randoms standing behind him. Who are the NPCs back there? Hunun gestured to them like a proud show-off. These are the elite disciples handpicked by the clan leader himself. He told me to give them a reality check by showing off a spar between you and me. The dude straight up covered his mouth and giggled like a villain. After all, our young master is the most gifted prodigy right behind the successor. Seong-ha-yeom wasn't having any of this mid-energy. Yo, instructor Hyun-un. His eyes went ice cold, locking dead onto the older man. The next clan leader hasn't even been locked in yet. You better watch your mouth before you get cooked. Hyun-un just kept flashing that punchable smirk. Oh, my bad, honestly. Guess I got a little mixed up for a second there. Stretching out his arm, Hyun-un tried to get down to business. So shall we kick off this little skill check? But Seong-ha-yeom flat out rejected him without missing a beat. Hard pass. I'm taking the 7-ring promotion test right now. Hyun-un shot him a look dripping with absolute disrespect. A total tryhard who only knows how to grind is actually dreaming of the top spot. Hyun-un recalled his sponsor's orders, his ego inflating to the max. If Seong-ha-yeom tries to challenge the 7th ring, crush him completely. I'll cover your tracks no matter what. Standing across the arena, Hyun-un started yapping endlessly. From the 7th ring on the test literally requires a direct showdown with an instructor. Plus, young master, you really need to consider Grand Elder Jin-hyun-yeom at the main branch. Isn't it a bit too early for you to be pushing your luck, young master? Seong-ha-yeom just stood there completely unfazed. You yap way too much, bro. Seong-ha-yeom boldly stepped right on the guy's ego. Or what, are you terrified of losing your little instructor badge? Hearing that, Hyun-un absolutely lost his mind and barked at his men. Bring me my spear right now. This 7th ring promotion test is going to be a domain clash. He slammed his spear right into the dirt. A domain clash is simple. It's a pure flex of power. Whoever's fire wheel is more OP takes the win. To pass, you gotta win, or at least tie. Seong-ha-yeom's eyes sharpened to lethal slits. He gripped his twin spears the second the match was called. All right then, let's get it. Seeing the young master's loadout for the first time, Hyun-un scoffed behind his hand. Dual spears. Seriously, that is so incredibly mid. Seong-ha-yeom couldn't care less. With a deadly glare, he lunged forward, his twin spears blazing with insane fire mana. Meanwhile, Hyun-un just stood there acting like a disappointed dad. Did you already forget the leader's order to seal your dark attribute mana? A chaotic trash tier flame like that will never be recognized as a true fire wheel. Seong-ha-yeom just smirked as swirling rings of fire erupted all around him. Let's see if you're still talking trash when we actually clash. Looking way too confident, Hyun-un just spun his spear behind his back. You're gonna regret this, kid. Getting serious, he dropped into a stance and summoned his own blazing fire wheels. The light from the pure fire element clashed violently with the dark attribute. The whole arena vanished in a blinding flash. Suddenly, Hyun-un's eyes bulged out of his skull. A massive black dragon manifested from the flames, literally devouring his fire wheels. What in the world is happening? My fire wheel is getting swallowed whole. It's being completely shredded. His exhausted eyes were locked in pure shock. Just a few seconds later, his precious spear snapped into 3 useless pieces. Hyun-un collapsed to his knees, right in front of his shattered weapon. Seong-ha-yeom stood tall, twirling his dual spears like an absolute boss, while looking down at the broken man. You were saying this was mid... Watching from the sidelines, Sehun clicked his tongue, low-key disappointed. What happens next? Man, what a total waste of top-tier crafting materials. Seong-ha-yeom kept his twin spears in hand and turned to chat with him. Once the promotion ceremony wraps up soon, I'll officially be recognized as an instructor of the Flame Blossom sect. And the legit heir. Sehun tilted his head, genuinely curious. So how exactly are you planning to secure the leader's throne? Seong-ha-yeom side-eyed him and laid it out. I need to clear 2 conditions. First, I gotta hit the 8th ring level. Second, I need a majority vote from the other instructors. Sehun squatted down in the dirt, casually picking up the shattered pieces of Hyun-un's spear. Even if you hit the 8th ring, can you actually force them to vote for you? Seong-ha-yeom didn't hesitate for a second. I can just beat their approval out of them in the arena. So that's literally a non-issue. But it won't be a simple domain clash next time, so it won't be a total walk in the park like today. Hearing that, Sehun stood up and shoved his hands into his pockets. Then, I guess it won't take too long. Standing right next to him, Seong-ha-yeom tightened his grip on his spear, looking dead serious. You make it sound way too easy. Sehun just shrugged it off casually. I only said that because it's totally doable. Just look at how easily you clutched that win today. What are you staring at now? Seong-ha-yeom shot him a sly, knowing look. From now on, you better start thinking about how you're gonna pay the tab for this. Closing his eyes, Seong-ha-yeom looked totally unfazed, a confident smirk playing on his lips. Just name your price to settle the bill. Whether you want straight cash or rare crafting materials, I'll hook you up with whatever you need. Suddenly, his voice dropped an octave, getting insanely serious. Plus, I've got another custom order I need you to craft. Sehun was caught off guard, glancing over at him. Another order already? That was fast. Out of nowhere, Seong-ha-yeom tightened his grip on his current weapon. The quality on these isn't bad at all. But I really just borrowed one to turn in for class. A calculated smile spread across his face like he was playing 4D chess. If he could craft something this fire in just a few short hours, I'm dying to know how insane my next spear is gonna be. Song-ha-yum punched Sehun lightly on the shoulder. Craft me a weapon that's even more cracked and easier to handle. Sehun just walked alongside him at a chill pace. Put that spear away first, bro. You almost skewered us just now. Wait, what did you just say? System alert bond level with target. Seong-ha-yum has leveled up to 2 as the bond level increases. The connection between both parties grows stronger. Current relationship status with target Seong-ha-yum transactional. Every time a transaction with the target is successfully completed, a new bond stone will be forged. The crystallization speed of the binding stones gets a massive buff during a trade. But right now our inventory is at absolute 0. Cut to a packed auction house. A blinding spotlight hits the main stage. The auctioneer is totally vibing, throwing his hands up to hype the crowd. Appreciate the patience. Fam. The second-year crafting department's official auction is officially a go. Sehun Lee is chilling in the audience seats. He really did not expect this place to be so packed. The turnout is absolutely insane. Erica, sitting right next to him, checks out his fresh drip. Did you switch up your aesthetic or something? Sehun just crosses his arms, his eyes scanning the room. Professor Enon Kim gave him a heads up that stepping out with the right drip is crucial. And honestly, rocking the top student title really hits different. You gotta look the part. Enon steps into the spotlight, radiating main character energy. It is low-key impossible to pull strings when all eyes are glued to the center stage. Sehun leans back, a sneaky smirk playing on his face. I am high-key curious to see how Michael plans to hijack the crafting department. Let the games begin. Today's entire meta is iron swords. We have exactly 36 drops in the lineup, plus a hardcore quality check to separate the OP gear from the mid-trash. Right on cue, the host reveals a pure white cloth. This is not your basic fabric. It is gump woven straight from the fur of an S-rank white tiger. It feels super soft, but it is literally as tough as raw metal. It totally tanks slashing attacks. An assistant steps up and whacks the cloth with absolute maximum effort. Wham! A deafening shockwave completely shakes the room. The auctioneer proudly points at the unbothered fabric. See that everyone tryhards always try to max out their damage stats, but their gear's durability is totally cooked. We catch those red flags instantly. For this event, the gump cloth is our lie detector for flawed drops. The first weapon hits the stage. Enter the blue horn blade crafted by student Joseph. The crowd starts whispering. Yo, that looks absolute fire. They really did their homework for this event. No cap. Erica throws a serious look at Sehun. Do you have any idea why they are doing this flex? Sehun drops the lore. Most NPCs think the white tiger is just a tanky mob, but its actual kit is way more complex. Its fur, flesh, and bones all carry totally different passive stats. The fur literally copies the exact sharpness of any metal blade that touches it. So even if your weapon is a massive W, it will just nuke its own durability. Erica rubs her chin doing the math. Wait, doesn't that mean your white light longsword is totally nerfed here? Blades that min-max their sharpness usually have garbage durability. Sehun just rests his chin on his hand. His eyes are literally shining with hype. You nailed it. This whole setup is a massive, totally obvious trap. They are gunning straight for me and Professor Enon Kim. If my blade shatters on stage, the professor's reputation is instantly cooked. But hey, that is only a problem if the blacksmithing was actually mid. Up on stage, the auctioneer slams his hammer. Item number 25 just sold for a clean 4 million. Now it is time for the final drop. Last, but definitely not least. Item 36, forged by the first-year prodigy Sehun Lee. Let the stress test for the white light longsword begin. The razor-sharp edge violently clashes with the cloth. Bam! An absolute shockwave of kinetic energy explodes across the stage. The tester grips the hilt for dear life, but the recoil is just too OP. The sword literally blasts right out of his hands. Michael watches from the sidelines, his face turning ghost white. The white light longsword is still deadly sharp, only missing a tiny chunk at the very tip. Bro, what in the world just happened? That was